The Financial Planning Committee meeting this evening. I'd like to have a roll call to start. John Ray? Here. Ken Picard?
Here.
Susan Sartori?
Present.
Scott Stocklin?
Here.
Rob?
Here.
And John Rappa here. We have everyone. First item is public comments. Any public comments? See no one in the audience from the public, so we'll continue. The next agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes from March 12th.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we hold until next meeting so we all have a chance to review it. At least I haven't had a chance to review it.
I haven't either, okay. Anyone second the motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the March 12th meeting minutes will be reviewed at our next gathering. First item tonight, Police Department capital request. Chief Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the board, Brian Griffin, I'm the Chief of Police as of January 1st of this year, and went around and said hello, so it was nice to see all of you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and thank you for your time here. My requests this year are going to be pretty short and sweet, and I presented put together a PowerPoint for all of you, so it's in front of you, printed out, and it's also on the screen. So we'll just get right into it. For this year, fiscal year 25, we're going to be asking for two vehicles, two cruisers, with a cost of $140,000 for both vehicles, and I'll go over the details as to the cost as the slides go along. $140,000, the wait time continues to be an issue as supply chain is still being affected due to COVID and the chip issues. We are upwards of sometimes 8 months out by the time we actually call our dealership and we actually have the car on the road. We're not the only department facing that. It's obviously a nationwide issue. They're slowly getting back up to speed. The dealership we use they've recently merged with another one, so that should help things as far as when we purchase the vehicles, actually getting them on the road. Our fleet replacement schedule we've been using for over 15 years, and it works really well for us. The schedule is based on 4 years of service or 100,000 miles. And for our administrative vehicles, for our detectives, the lieutenant, myself, it's 6 to 8 years before we trade them in. Our current replacement schedule is planned 10 years out. In each year, we either ask for 2 or 3 vehicles. That's what we do. We come here, we ask for either 2 cars or 3 cars. This year is a 2-car year. It's crucial to adhere to the schedule to ensure that the fleet remains reliable, safe, and adequately equipped for the demands of police work. It's also the officer's office. They spend upwards of 5 to 6 hours a day in a cruiser, and we want to make sure that it's obviously working well and comfortable, safe, and all of those things. Some of our vehicles operate upwards of 16 hours a day. With the cars that we have, we try to obviously we have a schedule as far as how many hours they're actually on the road, and then another shift comes in at midnight and they'll swap out cars. Our older vehicles typically get traded in. Sometimes we will repurpose them to the DPW. We had a Dodge Ram pickup truck several years ago that we did. We let the DPW have that. That's one of our first cars, and you see in that picture there. It would be nice if we kept that just for memory purposes and for parades. Currently, our fleet consists of 3 different vehicle makes. It's a Chevy Tahoe, the Dodge Charger, the Ford Interceptor Utility, also most of people would call it a Explorer, and 4 of the Explorers are hybrids. The reason we have Chevy, Dodge, and Ford is I can explain, because people ask that all the time, and it's pretty unusual. Back, I want to say it was around 2013, Ford stopped making the Crown Victoria. probably the biggest mistake they've ever made. It was a great car. So they stopped making them, and that was what police bought back in early 2010s, 2012s. After that time, the chief, I think it was Chief Leahy at the time, he didn't know what we wanted to do going forward. So for the past 10 years or so, we've kind of tried them all out, from the Chevy Tahoes to the Dodge Charger to the Ford Interceptor. And it's good because the officers can, listening to their feedback, what they like, what they don't like, has been helpful. I think I've kind of made the determination that we're going to focus going forward on the picture below, which is the Ford Police Interceptor. And I'll get into the reasons why in a moment. The 2024 Police Interceptor Utility, the base price cost approximately $49,000. That is up about $8,000 from just the last year. Personally, my wife and I bought a minivan, and you would have thought I was driving a Maserati. I couldn't believe the cost of a minivan today. It's just what it is today, unfortunately. So that is up about $8,000 from last year. Upfitting, which means basically the equipment, the lights, the computer, the detainee setup in the back, the graphics, and then we get the extended warranty. That's an additional $20,000, bringing us to right around the $70,000 mark. The two vehicles that will be trading in this year are a 2019 Dodge Charger and a 2018 Ford Police Interceptor. Going forward, our goal here would be to have all of our patrol vehicles be of the same from the same manufacturer. It's important to have some uniformity across the fleet. Just when, in an emergency situation, if an officer were to jump it in, if an officer were assigned his or her shift in a Ford Explorer and then had to jump into a Dodge Charger, things are in different locations, muscle memory, things like that. I believe in uniformity, and going forward, as long as we can get these, that's what you'll see us driving in. The extended warranty is better. Most of the officers find this to be the most comfortable for size. We have bigger officers and we have smaller officers, and this is kind of right in the middle. My plan, these two that I'm asking for this year are gas powered. We have 4 of these that are hybrids, and my goal would be to have all hybrids. We love them. I just can't get them right now. That's the problem. We can. I called. If we were to order a hybrid today, I would see it July of next year. So it's about a year and a half out, and we just don't have time for that. I need cars on the road. It's obviously a critical piece of equipment that we need. Going, if it gets better, if the production gets better, I'll probably be back here next year asking for hybrids. So that is my plan. And I also wanted to note that I have had early discussions. National Grid has a fleet advisory program. And myself and the town planner, we've met with them twice now to discuss future plans for electric. I'm certainly all ears and would like to listen to this. They have... I submitted to them the list of all of the vehicles we have, and they're going to come up with a plan for us to see what makes sense. Can we do this? Right now, the actual police vehicle you see on the road is really not ready for electric yet. I think there's definitely a future for it, but the amount of power, the equipment inside, they're just not there yet. And I think my predecessor, Chief Livro, said the same thing last year, and we're still hearing that. And the research I've done is they're just not quite there yet. However, that's not to say we couldn't potentially think about an administrative vehicle, a detective vehicle being electric at some point down the road. Those vehicles are parked longer. They're at the station more. But the vehicle that's out on the road that you see every day, again, upwards of 14 hours a day, we're just not there yet. So, are there any questions on, I guess, the cruises? I'll go forward, but
May I? Through the
Please.
chair.
Yep.
Back in the day, when I was on financial planning many years ago, one of the things that was critical when it came to police vehicles was the idling time. So does that factor into why you can or cannot go electric at this point, because you wouldn't have that kind of idling time that most vehicles, because it's not really about mileage as much as it is the idling time.
Yeah, the idling time, I mean, in general, they say it's like add 30% on the engine, right? Where, you know, if our vehicle, we're trading them in at 100,000 miles, that's 100,000 miles on the odometer, but that's not the engine. The idling, they're saying average about 20 to 30% more, add 20 to 30% more to the mileage, really, because of all the idling time. And that's another factor as far as the
I think it's
electric.
one for people to truly understand why it's hard for a police department to jump into electric
Yeah.
without really examining it well. So I appreciate the research you're going to do
Yeah,
before you jump in and spend the money on one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and as I said, you know, when we heard about this program National Grid was having, it's definitely worth listening to, and my ears are open, you know.
And then through the chair, I had another question. Hybrid, you're not able to get it this year because of lead times. Can you tell me what, if it was available this year, what's the cost of a hybrid versus the gas-powered?
Yeah, only roughly, I want to say between $3,000 and $4,000 more.
Okay,
So it's
great.
really not, it's not much.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Chief, that's a plug-in hybrid, right?
No, it's not a plug-in hybrid.
Okay. It's a Prius-like
Yes,
hybrid. Got
exactly.
it. Thank you. All right, question.
Does the $49,000, is that net of trade-in?
No, that does not include the trade. We might get $2,500 for one of the cars we're trading. It's just not a high resale value. If we were to get that, you know, I knocked a couple little things that I'd like to add on to this car, a couple extra lights. You know, if there was that $2,500, I might be able to get another light bar on the back somewhere, the tailgate. But it's so minimal that we get. They're just really beat up pretty
Okay.
bad. That's why, you know, if we had a use firm in town, for instance, the DPW, I'd much rather just give it to them to
Yeah,
use.
yeah, okay.
And then through the chair, what are the mechanics when you sell a car? Does it go to auction or?
We don't sell it directly. It's going back to the dealership. What they do with it, I'm not 100% certain. Yep.
All right.
Okay to move on?
Yes, Chief, please.
Okay. Just looking forward for the next couple of years, I'll go over these as well. FY26, communication center upgrade cost approximately $160,000. That picture here is our current setup in our dispatch at the police station. For those listening, our police dispatchers, they are also our fire and they are EMS dispatchers, and they are busy. They take thousands of calls every year, and to have a space for them that's comfortable and efficient is critical, and I'm sure Chief Parente can support that as well. This project seeks to replace the original 1980s vintage console and cabinets with streamlined modern consoles. This will replace the 30 years worth of add-on equipment and computers necessary for handling next generation 911 technology and equipment. Our current consoles are basically a patchwork of older and new technology. Dispatchers must manage and monitor 6 computer screens, 911, and everything's just scattered around this particular room. When the building was built in 1989, we probably had 1 or 2 computer monitors back then, and they were big boxes. Technology's changed, and our dispatch area really has not changed in almost 40 years. This picture was taken yesterday, so usually we have two dispatchers working a shift. That's what we really we need, and generally that's what we get. The picture on the left that shows the digital clock in the background, that's station number 1, and station number 2 is a really cramped space. You can see the monitors on the upper right that are mounted to the wall. Things just don't flow. These 2 dispatchers actually can't see each other. They have, and I should have taken a picture, but the picture on the left, if the dispatcher was looking over her left shoulder, there's like a little cabinet that's open, and the reason why it's open is so she can see her partner. And oftentimes they work calls together. They may be taking an emergency ambulance call for a CPR in progress. And as one dispatcher is dispatching the ambulance, the other dispatcher is dispatching the police. And for them to not to see each other is an issue. So it's really just kind of archaic at this time. The equipment's working. It's just, it's the consoles and the flow to make it more efficient.
So Chief, it's the collaboration and the workflow that you want to improve and streamline.
That's correct. Just examples as to what a more modern-day dispatch center would look like. Now, Southborough, obviously, it's a brand-new station. Westborough just had a major update to their station as well. It just flows a little bit better here.
Chief, regarding the renovation of your dispatch area, have you coordinated with the DPW for new air conditioning in that area? Because I'm assuming your heat load is going to change.
Yes, we would have to. Yeah, really, it's mostly going to just be consoles, and there's going to be very little actual construction, but we would talk to the facilities manager to make sure we're correct in that area too.
Yes, my assumption is if you're buying new computer equipment, you're going to increase the heat load.
100%.
All right,
Good
so
point.
just to make sure you.
Something to think about. Yeah, thank you.
Coordinate them at the same time.
Yeah. We've already started to do our research a little bit. We've been visiting some police stations and getting some ideas. And we actually had one supplier come up with a little 3D design, which is kind of this is over, if you're looking at the dispatch area from above, this is what we would like it to look like. The door there leads to our hallway where our patrol room is, and the window on the opposite side would be your lobby window. So here you'd have your two dispatchers set up. Things just flow better, and it's just much more efficient. Moving on to FY27, Police Department security upgrades cost approximately $200,000. We have, I believe it's approximately 30 cameras throughout the building. The request for FY27 would be security upgrades, which includes cameras, our locks, and proximity readers. The locks on the picture on the upper right is those can be found throughout the building. Again, built in 1989. Those were the locks that people that were installed back then. It works, but it's from 1989. We've slowly started to install the proximity readers where the officers have a key fob allowing them into certain parts of the building. Ultimately, we would like to have those key fobs on most of our doors and to replace what you see in the upper right. The cameras, that's our biggest concern right now. The cameras is manufactured by Hikvision. And in 2022, the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, issued a new rule subsequently signed into law by President Biden banning importation and sale of this product in the United States due to potential network compromise. I don't know much about the IT version of why that is, but there's some serious issues where it was signed into law that we can't buy them here anymore. It's currently about 10 to 12 years old. It was never good, to be honest with you, from the get-go. The cameras break often, and they're costly repairs. This year alone, I want to say a couple $1,000 already on replacements, or to call a vendor out to come fix them. This is our camera system right now. This is a screenshot of my computer monitor. And as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it looks like we have 7 cameras that are out right now, where you see video loss or no video. That's a concern. For instance, one of these should be focused on a cell, a jail cell. Because we don't have a camera, now we have 5 cells, 3 adult male, 1 female cell, and 1 juvenile cell. Currently, cell number 3 has no video to it. Therefore, that cell is out of order. We cannot put someone in there for liability purposes. So we have to shut it down until we can call the vendor out to come repair it, which is about $1,500 to come out and fix it. So there is another camera up there on the bottom right. I'm sorry. Actually, I can't find it right now, but it's an interview room. Our first floor interview room is not working. So again, by law, when officers interview suspects, they have to audio and visually record it. We have one other option on our third floor where our detectives use, but again, just things that need to get fixed and really just needs an upgrade at this point. And with the issues that the FCC has spoken about, I've put that on for FY27.
Chief, if it's approved at town meeting, what's the turnaround time to get your video system up?
I don't know, be honest with you. I think, this is still, 2 years out. I'm going to have to start doing some research on that. Hopefully quick, quicker than the cars, hopefully. This was originally on for this year, and given everything going on, and I was the new chief in town, I asked our communication supervisor if we could push this out a little bit. And he said yes. There was not a need to spend $220,000 this year. We can push it out a few years. Our portable radios work, and they work pretty good. What we're asking for here in 28 of a cost of $220,000 and is interoperable portable radios. The radio on the left is what we currently have. We have 25 of them, so one for each officer, and usually we have a backup. And then the proposed one would be on your right. What's this going to do? This project proposes to replace our existing single band radios with multi-band radio capabilities. Area communities and the state police operate on UHF and 800 bands. These portable radios will allow our officers to communicate with surrounding communities, the state police, and MEMA. They will provide for statewide interoperability wherever our officers go. It'll also facilitate communications with area mutual aid departments that respond to Northborough to assist. And mutual aid is such a key factor in police work and fire work, and we depend on our neighbors, and not being able to talk to them is sometimes frustrating. This was an incident 2 weeks ago you may have read about in the paper of a standoff that lasted about 4 hours in the woods with what was believed to be an armed individual who had robbed a store. We had set up a command post outside Walmart. In the picture on the left, you see 6 officers there. 2 are Northborough, 1 is Shrewsbury, and I think 2 are Westborough. And then the picture on the right is a state police SWAT team, and you see the officer holding a portable radio. As the officer in charge, as I went out that night. We had requested the SWAT team due to the circumstances, and the commander of the SWAT team stated, I need one officer from every jurisdiction here at the command post so that we're all so we can all hear each other. So literally those officers you see there, minus one of them, there were like 4 or 5 of us that were just at the command post so that we could all tell our officers who were out actually surrounding the perimeter what was going on. So we couldn't talk to each other. And that was frustrating. Again, the proposed plan in 28 would be to hopefully, fix some of these issues. That's a nice picture, actually. Looks like spring, the flowers are coming out, the building's painted nice blue. And so in FY29, the building will be 40 years old. It was built in 1989. As a young kid, I kind of remember it being built. Like a house that's 40 years old, things are going to start to go, and things are going a little bit. Space-wise, we're doing pretty good. But in FY29, we would like to kind of think about the future a little bit as to what the needs would be for that building. Whether it be, small addition. Biggest concern I have right now for the police station is our evidence room is in our basement near the jail cells. It's obviously a secured area. And our communication system is down there, and there are some issues with pipes that are over this room, just issues that when they built it, I don't know why they did it that way. So FY29 would be a feasibility study to say, what are we doing? Where are we going with this? What do we need? So that's why it's on here for FY29. and I'll entertain any questions.
You didn't address it because it's actually in the Department of Public Works, the facilities request for your fire station.
Sure.
Can you speak to that?
Fire station or,
Police station, I'm so sorry.
so you mean the painting?
The painting, yeah.
Okay. Sure. So,
I'm starting to think about renovations.
yeah, exactly. So as most people who drive by 211 Main Street, they look and they see that it's definitely in need of a painting. And a painting goes a long way. And I think when that happens, it'll look really good. Because as I said, the building's, it's held up well. I like it. Sometimes people come in and like, I can't believe it's 40 years old. So that's a testament to the people who've worked there, the people who've worked on it, our DPW, things like that. So my understanding is the money was approved at last year's town meeting for a paint job. The contractor went out, took a look and said, well, you can put paint on it, but it's not going to stick because of the rot. There is a lot of rot. It really, at that time, it was disappointing because we wanted it done. We were hoping to get it done last summer. And again, at least one contractor came out and said, you're going to waste your money. So we kind of churned things over to facilities to come up with a plan. The plan that's been presented, I believe they're asking for $130,000 or somewhere around there for, an architect to take a look at it, come up with a plan, whether it be siding of some sort, whether it be clapboard or vinyl, coming up with a better plan, but I don't believe the original $70,000 is going to go far because it's going to need much more than paint. So that's my understanding, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that's their plan too.
They're asking for 200 with 130,000 coming out of free cash from this year's budget and using the unexpended from last year of 70,000 to be able to get that done. Some of the questions that I'm hearing in town is that, oh gosh, we have a feasibility study coming up. Does that mean a new build, a renovation?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so many projects going on right now in town. I think the police station is other than the paint, it's in pretty good shape. Being in the position for only 3 months now, I haven't given a ton of thought to that feasibility study. What are our needs? There are needs, and I referenced the evidence room. And, we're asking for an additional police officer this year, and we're hoping to increase the staffing a little bit each year by one, which would require some space, office space, lockers, things to that nature. But we're pretty good, so I think whatever that money is, we really need to get something done immediately. We're not going to be building a new building. Not in my life, not in my career anyways. That's going to be a long time away, in my opinion.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Chief, thank you and your team for your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for keeping us safe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a nice night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, the fire department, Chief Parenti.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you.
Brought my deputy, but he's afraid to come back, so. Yeah, I'm not gonna need it right away, but if you wanna put it up there, you can go ahead. Thank you so much. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dave Parenti, I'm the fire chief. I've been here in Northborough for just a little over 8 years. Before that, I did 29 up in New Hampshire. Retired on a Friday, started here on a Monday. Don't ask me why, but that's what I did. And I've been here for 8 years now, and I got a couple years left, but it's been a great community to work for. Really such a difference from working in New Hampshire. If anyone's ever worked in government in New Hampshire, it's radically different and in a good way. Our capital plan has, in years past, the former town administrator always wanted, I'm going to get into this later, I'm not doing the PowerPoint just yet, I'll talk about capital first. The previous town administrator always wanted us to do a 6-year plan. I always did a 10-year plan. because I want to know where we're going and if I have to move something up ahead and are things breaking, and it gives us a little bit more flexibility in what we're looking at. So when the new town administrator come on, he said, I'd like to see a 10-year plan. It's like, I'm already there. That makes it easy. Here you go. I have mine. So the big thing this year is our new rescue that we're asking for. Before I get into the rescue, I'll talk a little bit. I'm going to piggyback on what Chief Griffin was saying, which is supply chain issues. So when I first started, I was a chief officer in 2001. I've been in the fire service full-time since 1986. And we used to be able to order a fire truck and get a fire engine in 8 months, 9 months, 10 on the outside. Ambulances, we'd get in 6 months, maybe even sooner. We ordered an ambulance in May of 22, and I still don't have it. And as of the other day, we had to switch from a Dodge chassis, because they cannot get them, to a Ford chassis. Now, if I had stayed with the Dodge chassis, they may have been able to find it, but hey, that's another $20,000 because it's changed. So suddenly, the money that was approved by town meeting is now increased, and yes, they write this into all of their contracts, so there's no way around it. So we went with a Ford. They said, great, it'll be there first quarter of 25. Now, here's the problem. This plan that's in front of you, and the plans I've always done, have put the replacement in the same year that I need to replace it. So we replace engines every 20 years. We replace ambulances every 10 years. We replace staff vehicles every 8 to 10 years, depending on how much abuse they've gotten, how many miles they get. But that's kind of a figure that we use. The National Fire Protection Association sets limits on how long we can keep an apparatus and have it count as an apparatus. And the problem with that is if we exceed that, it goes against our insurance service organization rating, which increases your taxes. So ISO comes out and says, are all your apparatus under a certain age, and are they of a certain pump capacity, and do they have a certain amount of water? So we have to consider all that when we're looking at replacing. So what's happening now is the truck that we're replacing, the ambulance we're replacing, was due to be replaced in 2013. It's going to be replaced in 2025 at best. So we're already 2 years past. The truck that's running first due right now, our newest ambulance, has 86,000 miles on it. That's due to step down to second due, and then the second due will step down to third due, and the third due one will get replaced. The next two ambulances have 84 and 88,000 miles on them. They are, without questions, the busiest trucks we do. I ran a report before I came here today. Today is March 19th, right? We've done 2,000 loaded miles, which means we've transported patients. That's just going to the hospital with over 2,000 miles. That doesn't include coming back from the hospital. It doesn't include going to calls. It doesn't include any other incidences that we do that we don't transport. Then on top of that, and you had mentioned, I think, idle time, talking about the police. Really important in the fire service to consider idle time. So the engine that we've ordered last year, no, we ordered the engine this year in May, right? Last May, this May. That's not going to come in until maybe 25, middle of 25. That currently has enough miles, enough hours on it that it would qualify for 126,000 miles. How do we do that? So we take the miles and we multiply it by 40, right? So if I take a fire truck to an incident, it may take me 4 miles to get there. Then a truck sits there for 6 hours idling at a very high speed because it's pumping, all that abuse going on the pump, going on the motor. So you have to consider that. You can't just say, well, it's only got 20,000 miles on it. Well, yes, but it's got a heck of a lot more hours on it and a lot more abuse. So we consider all that when we're replacing things. So that takes me back to where we are now. So the truck that we're looking at replacing this year is Rescue 1. Now, Rescue 1 was supposed to be replaced last year. Last year, the town administrator came to me and he said, hey, I'm thinking about funding one of your apparatus replacement with ARPA. What truck do you need to replace? I said, well, the rescue's up, but I'm having issues with the pump on engine 1. If you understand how pumps and fire trucks work, there's all these different packings and things that tighten up. We're at the point where all the adjustments are to the max. You can't adjust it anymore. So our pump specialist said, your next thing is to tear the pump down. You tear the pump down, it could cost $25,000, it could cost $80,000, it depends on what's going on. This truck is already, engine 1 is a 2005. I don't want to put $80,000 in a 20-plus-year-old truck. It's just crazy. So I said, let's replace engine one. We'll push the rescue back. It's still in pretty good shape. So we ordered engine ones at $900,000. That's what the truck is that we got last year. And I told the town meeting last year, and I told this committee last year, that we were lucky to get in at $900,000 because every year DEP comes out with new standards. And when they come out with new standards, they have to build a new engine. And when they have to build a new engine, they have to re-engineer the entire truck. And when they re-engineer the entire truck, and you see where this is going? Rescue One, the truck we're looking for this year, came in at $1.25 million. I don't mind telling you, that shocked me. And I've been buying trucks for a long time. And I can remember buying fire engines for $300,000-$400,000. I'm buying ambulances now, and we'll talk about this a little later. I'm speccing ambulances out at $500,000+. Tower truck that's coming up in when's the tower truck coming up? 2029? 2.3 million, 2.4 million, easily. And this isn't that we're asking for incredible trucks. This is what everyone's paying for them, and the delays are that much further. So the truck we're asking for this year is 1.25 million. It's already been delayed a year. You want to know what the delivery date they gave us was? 49 months. Now they tell us months because it sounds better, I guess. 49 months. And I said, are you kidding me? I said, nope. No, you may get it earlier because typical salesman, when you go to a salesman and they say, it's going to take 49 months and then we get it to you in 45, we're heroes, right? Because we saved you some time. Or we get it to you in 40. Oh, that's great. But they tell you 49 months. They told me the ambulance that we're waiting for, they told me 18 months. It'll be 2 years in May and we're not expecting it till beginning of 25. So what does that tell you? So that's what we're looking for this year. That's the only item we're looking for this year. 2027, we're looking for to replace an ambulance and to replace our squad truck. Our squad is probably one of the busiest trucks in the station. It runs on just about every medical call, runs on CO calls. It runs on a lot of lower acuity calls. And what we do, if you've ever seen that truck, it looks like a little pickup truck, but it's got the bigger back on it. It's not car 3, which is a pickup. It's actually a bigger truck. It's got a pump and a tank on it. The reason we do that is because it takes the wear and tear off the $900,000 truck. So if I had to send that truck out to every single call that I send this squad out to, that would increase the wear and tear. While we use a smaller truck that cost $300,000, $400,000, and it takes the wear and tear off that big truck. So that's why we use that operational model. I suspect next year you're going to see changes in all these prices because we're told all the new motors are coming out and all the prices are going up by $50,000 to $100,000. So we're going to see changes in all of these prices. In 2029, we have the aerial truck I just talked to you about. That'll be 20 years. Aerial trucks are very specialized pieces of equipment, and they're very expensive. I have in here 2.2 million. Now, the way I do these figures, and people say, well, how'd you come up with 2.2 million, right? Well, first of all, I make a lot of calls. I have a lot of friends that are chiefs. If I don't know someone, the deputy knows someone, we call them. What did you pay for this vehicle? We paid 1.5 million. What's the escalation been? The escalation has been 5%. Great. Put it in a chart, figure out the escalation 5%, and I throw that in there. But then I call somebody else and their escalation is 6%, and I call someone else and their escalation is 3%. So we just kind of have to average it out. And that's where we come up with these numbers. But every year, we have to revisit each and every item because they change so drastically, especially these fire apparatus and the ambulances. Now, people always say, is that just a truck or is that equipment? Well, it's a little of each. If we can reuse equipment, we reuse equipment. If I can take the hose off of engine 1 and put that hose onto the new engine 1, I'm going to do that. But hose has a shelf life. And after a while, we may have to replace some of it. So sometimes we'll build some of that into the new truck. We have to build new radios in, as Chief Griffin was talking about. We already have those portables he's talking about. He's talking about those Motorola 8000. They're awesome radios. I can talk to anybody. We have those in our new ambulances. I can talk to helicopters. I can talk to MEMA. I can talk to the state police. Terrific. I have to spec those for the new rigs as they're coming in. So I'm not going to just move an old radio over. So that's a cost. We have to spec new lights. And then every year, the NFPA comes out and they update they're standard, and we may need more reflective material. We may need more DEF, which is the stuff that's used now for the motor to burn it cleaner. We may need a different size motor. There's all different things that affect it every year. So every year we revisit all these. And you'll see that the prices on these are going up. So in 2027, I have an ambulance for $550. In 2035, I'd have an ambulance for $610,000. And that's using those escalation rates I spoke about. I still see those going up higher and higher and higher. So we revisit these every year. It's frustrating. I think the list you have, I listed all the mileage, all the hours to mileage, and I listed the responses. Now, please understand those responses. If you look, 21, 22, 23, just in 24, our calls are going up every year. This morning, I ran the numbers again, and the calls for the medic unit was up another 40 from when I ran this, and that was just like 2 weeks ago. So the numbers just keep going up and up and up. That's our capital improvement plan for our apparatus. There's other things in here, our self-contained breathing apparatus. That's something that we put in here. Our portable radios we'll put in here. But one of the things we do is there's many grants out there, and the deputy chief, plus I have a hazmat assistant, and he's our grant guy. These guys look for grants and write grants constantly. We have had luck that when we replaced our self-contained breathing apparatus, it was in the plan for 5 years. On year 6, when it was time to buy it, we got the grant. Okay, we had our radios in there, our portable radios. On year 5, we got the grant. So we keep doing that, and we keep looking for those grants. This year, we're looking to replace a whole bunch of meters. So we have to have all kinds of gas meters, CO meters, H2SO4 meters, all these different gas meters, hazardous material meters. We're looking at using this one big grant that we have that's a federal grant to replace all those meters. There is a cost share involved, but for the most part, they're awesome grants, and they take care of the majority of the cost of that. So we build that into our system as well. So before I go on to the next item, are there any questions for the apparatus equipment?
A lot of the funding for this, you usually ask from the EMS revolving fund.
So EMS revolving fund is pretty particular.
Okay.
So we can use that to replace ambulances.
For the ambulances.
I can
Okay.
use it to partially replace the squad because it's not 100% usage. So about 68% of our calls are EMS calls. So everything I do, I have to figure out, okay, what percentage of this rig does this many calls? And revolving accounts are really, you're supposed to use those accounts to cover the cost for what the money is charged for, right? So those are all based on ambulance fees. So we use that to offset ambulance cost.
Okay.
So the ambulance fees are offset, and we do borrow for the ambulances, but all the debt service is paid for out of the revolving account.
Okay.
The free cash used to be enough to purchase engines. It's not anymore because it would chew up most of that free cash we have. But there are ways to use part of the free cash to help offset, and you'll see in the rescue, I believe, and I wish Jason was here because I know they've done a couple things and had some leftover funds, but they're using some money to offset part of the money for the rescue truck. So all we have to finance is 700. Tim, do you have that number? It's 700 and...
Yeah, you have other available funds of 11,238, so you're financing 745,842.
Okay.
And you're using 492,920 of free cash.
Okay. So we use whatever sources we can. That big grant, that AFG grant that we call that got the SCBA's for us, that got the radios, you can get apparatus out of that. It's very difficult.
I think it's important to address the issue because as you come forward with your fire station project, people are going to be looking at a big chunk of money that we're going to have to borrow for. So they are seeing all the equipment that has to go in there to actually deliver the services, and it's pretty expensive equipment. But it's not always funded directly through debt
Yes,
issuance.
correct.
So I think it's important for the community to understand that there are other sources within the town to be able to fund a lot of the equipment you use.
We look for other sources, we look for grants, we look for other ways to fund that. One of the other things I want to point out is our maintenance budget is constantly going up because we're keeping trucks longer because of this turnaround thing, right? So one of the things we've done, and I'm going to credit Deputy Aspesi with this, is that he found So Foxborough Fire Department actually has started doing repairs for other fire departments. The mechanic they hired was able to talk his chief into saying, hey, we could probably help offset our cost if we do this. The difference is we're getting shop quotes of $140, $160 an hour. We're paying $90 an hour in Foxborough. So we're looking all the time for ways to keep those line items down. And the turnaround has been 100% better with them. And the mechanic happens to be a firefighter that knows what he's doing. He's a mechanic, but he also has that experience. So when the guys call him and say, this is going on, he goes, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about, as opposed to calling a mechanic who goes, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a fire truck, but bring it in, we'll take a look at it. So we're really excited, and we're always looking for those other ways to save
Your
money.
networking skills are superb.
It comes in handy. It comes in handy, let me tell you.
Chief, is it fair to say, aside from the squads, every other apparatus is diesel?
Every vehicle is diesel with the exception of my vehicle and the deputy's vehicle.
Okay.
And is car 3 diesel or is it? Yes. Gas.
Okay.
And the pickup truck. We try to make most of our vehicles diesel. Not all, but not all of them are. There are electric fire trucks out there now. Some of the bigger communities are buying them, like LA or, those types of communities. They're a couple $1 million for them. And to call them electric fire trucks is really kind of disingenuous because they're really diesel trucks that have generators on them and batteries. And as soon as the battery dies, the diesel takes over, because you really can't afford to have your battery die if you're driving a fire truck. You got to have power all the time. Yeah. And they've had some issues with them, not a ton. We purchased the same response vehicles. My vehicle is the exact same vehicle that Chief Griffin was talking to you about, the Ford Explorer. That's the same vehicle I use. We buy it from the same manufacturer, the same supplier that they do. We talked about a hybrid. They said, not right now. We're hoping to get there, but we're not there yet because there's so many different things that runs. There's so many different things that are charging off of that truck. But hopefully, eventually, we can get there.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Chief?
So the other thing, there's two other things I wanted to talk to you about. And one of them I just want to touch on just from the 30,000-foot view, and that is because you've probably heard of it, is the SAFER grant that we've asked the Board of Selectmen that they've given us permission to apply for. The SAFER grant is the Staffing for Adequate Firefighter and Emergency Coverage. And it's been around for a little while. It's a federal grant, and it's had numerous different forms. Everything from a 3-year grant or a 4-year grant that was 100% the first year, 75% the second year, 50% the third year, to its current iteration, which is 100% for all 3 years, and then the 4th year you take over all cost. And the purpose of it is to hire firefighters. It's not to hire paramedics or EMTs. It's not to hire inspectors. It's to hire firefighters, to get the needed firefighters on staff based on, again, NFPA 1720, which is a standard that they've developed for call and volunteer and combo departments, which is what we are. And to have enough people on scene within a certain amount of time in order to safely fight the fire. Right now, we have 5 people on duty. Fire the other day that we had, I don't know if you guys saw, we post all fires on Facebook, was we had a truck fire within 5 feet of the house. We also had an ambulance at the hospital. That's 2 people gone, at least 3 people. And myself, luckily it was during the day, and the deputy. But what we've done is we've established all these auto aid agreements. So for that call, automatically, Marlboro's dispatched to the scene with an engine, Berlin is dispatched to the scene with a tanker, Westboro is dispatched to the scene with an engine and a chief officer, and we have an engine coming in to cover the station. That gets us almost to the number of people that we need to meet the NFPA 1720 requirements. The grant, which would be for 8 people, which would put 2 people per shift, which would allow us to drop 1 person. So instead of having 5 people per shift, would be guaranteed 6 people per shift, would get us where we need to meet those minimum numbers. It's 100% funded for the first 36 months, with the exception of overtime, turnout gear, uniforms, things that we would have to purchase for them that way. But any benefits that are within their collective bargaining agreement are covered. So if there's a incentive for a paramedic, that's covered. If there's an incentive for certain fire training, that's covered. It's all covered. That window is open right now. The deputy and the rest of the team, so we've put together a team to draft it, are well involved in drafting that grant. They'll be submitting the grant hopefully within the next 3 weeks, Deb? Before April 12th. Before April 12th, that's when it closes. Their awards for the grant start sometime June or July. Now, if you're not in the first tranche, you may be in the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, you don't know. And it's based on your narrative, it's based on your need, it's based on all kinds of things. So you could get it in July, you could get it in September, you could get it in January. You have 6 months to hire your people, and then after that 6 months, the funding starts. So we're really excited. We think it's a great opportunity. I'm not going to go over the whole history, but we've been asking for people since well before I started as a chief, and I did this full presentation. It's available if you want to see it. We did the full presentation to the board and how long we've been asking, so we really, really think it's needed. We're excited that the board has given us permission, but I really thought since we have to plan on how we're going to fund this in the future, financial planning was a good group to be able to, for me to tell that we're doing this. My recommendation is once we get it, we start increasing our budget on a yearly basis by a quarter or a third of what our final funding's going to be, so we don't get hit with that big sum at that end of the year when we have to absorb, at the end of the grant when we have to absorb everyone. That's my recommendation. We've done some preliminary numbers with Jason. We have some ideas of what the impact would be and what the final cost would be and how much we'd have to have at the end of that. I think that was in your packet that I sent today. I'm not sure if you had that, but those are very preliminary numbers.
In this package?
Yeah, it should be somewhere in the back of that packet. Some numbers are in there. Talks about the final number is 1 million. I'd have to find it in here somewhere. If it's not in there, I did send another spreadsheet with it that has the numbers that Jason had in there. Whether that went on with the packet, I included it in what I sent. I don't know if you guys got it. If not, I'm sure Jason can send it to you.
So is the expectation that these firefighters would stay on after the grant? And that's the reason why this, up until recently, hasn't been approved by the board?
No, because, no. Yes and no. How's that for an answer? The expectation is yes, no, that's not why it hasn't been approved. So in years past, the grant required you to keep them on. It said, you can hire them, you can't lay them off. You have to keep them for 5 years. They changed that either last year or the year before and said, okay, we want you to keep them, but if you don't, we understand. One of the requirements of the grant is you have to have a signature from a town authority, either the town administrator or the Board of Selectmen, that says, we support the fire department going forward with this grant. Because they don't want to take the time going through the grant, because it's chiefs from all over the country and different, right, to go through and review all the grants and say, yes, we think these people should get it, award it to us, and then have the board say, no, thank you, we never approved that. I did bring this forward I started here in 2016. I brought the SAFER grant forward in 2017, and it was the town administrator refused to sign the grant. And then I was not encouraged to bring it forward anymore. We kind of reached a breaking point last year with our call volume, with COVID, with the amount of work that our 5 firefighters are doing. We're doing around 2,500 calls a year with 5 people on shift. That is outrageous. Same number of people on shift in Southborough, about 1,000, if not more, less calls. Our guys are just getting beat up, and we're losing people. They're leaving for bigger departments. They may be a little bit busier, but they have a lot more people, so they're not getting beat up as much. And we're looking to stem the bleeding, and we need, one of the things that our people are telling us, and not only our people, national research is telling us, this is a big issue. We need people. So that's one of the reasons we were asking.
So my understanding is you're going to put a cushion in the next 3 years, each year in your operating expenses? Is that what you're
That's the intent.
contemplating?
That's the
And
intent.
what does, like, you said 1/4%, is that it?
Well, if we do it for 3 years, it would be a third. If we do it for 4 years, it would be a quarter of whatever the costs are.
And how much is that?
About 250,000, a little bit more. So it's right around 1.1, 1.2 million.
Okay.
Okay, for now. One of the things with the grant is it funds whatever your costs are in year 1 for the full time. So if our cost in year 1 is 1.1 million, and our cost in year 3 due to contractual raises is 1.3 million, it covers the 1.1 million for those 3 years. So we're gonna have some money we're gonna have to make up anyway for those years. And then on that last year, so if it's the 4th year, it would be 25% of the total cost each year. That way you're not taking that huge hit on at the end of that, of the grant process.
Yeah, you're building yourself, if you don't have a cushion, you'll build a big structural deficit in your operating budget for sure.
100%.
So you're contemplating using that percentage increase to offset raises, is that you will see in the
Right,
next
so,
3
so
years?
that'll offset a couple things. It'll offset some equipment that we have to buy for the new people. It'll offset training we have to do, because if we hire firefighters, we need to train them to be paramedics. And if we have to train them to be paramedics, I have to send them to paramedic school and I have to backfill and I have to pay for part of their school, right? So there's all these different costs that will happen in those 3 years' time. So it'll help with all those costs because the grant won't cover those costs. And then when we hit year 4, those costs will all have been taken care of, and that money will be able to go towards the,
Well, good luck with that planning. You'll be working with Board of Selectmen and appropriations on that primarily, so best of luck.
yeah, to me, it just makes sense. And it doesn't make sense to go into that 4th year, as you said, with this big hole in, that we have to, and I've seen departments do it. Many departments will do it. Worcester just got a SAFER grant for 8-point-something million for their SAFER grant. So they're gonna hire all these people, and if they don't put money away for their next 3 years, what's gonna happen at the end of that? I don't care if you're a city, 8 million's a lot of money to take as a hit for your budget. To me, it just makes sense to plan for it.
I also don't like to see hiring people and laying them off, because there's costs associated with letting people go.
And it doesn't make sense. It does no good. If we're training these people, it makes no sense.
Yeah. And they're unionized.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay. Chief, anything else?
That's it. Not for that, unless anyone has any other questions about SAFER. So the next big thing we're doing is this thing up here, which is the fire station. Now, here's the funny thing. I didn't plan on talking about this tonight. I was gonna do it maybe if I was gonna give you a little high angle if you had some questions. But the chair asked me, can you do the same presentation you did for the board? And I said, be more than happy to. I like to talk, so if I talk too much, just tell me to shut up. My mom used to tell me I kissed the Blarney Stone. For all you Irish people, you understand, I like to talk. That's a bad thing. So the current fire stations, we're gonna go through this. This is the current view from West Main Street that the Fire Station Building Committee has approved, what you're looking at here, okay? So what I want to do is give you a little bit of history, and I'm going to go through some of these slides fairly quickly, but when this fire station was approved, we had 1, 2, this fire, when we're in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of equipment. And one of the things they said is, we don't have enough room. How come this is not advancing as the, oh, it is, okay. We don't have enough room in there, and you know the station on Church Street? So we don't have enough room in there. Okay, so they built our fire station. Our fire station now, we have 18 pieces of apparatus. In the fire station they built to hold 7. We also have ambulances that they never had to have in the old one because it was a different service. So we have engine 1, engine 2, engine 3, the rescue, the tower, 3 medic units, the forestry, the squad. On the right-hand side, we have car 1, car 2, car 3, our gator, our boat with its motor, and our trailers that we have to put somewhere in our gator. Right now, we have a garage out back that's not heated that we have our forestry in. So when it freezes, we have to dump our forestry, put antifreeze in the pump, and stick it outside. This time of year, that's really difficult because it's brush fire season, but it's cold at night. So we now have to move a different piece of equipment outside. Luckily, one of our pieces of equipment's out being serviced, so we have the forestry inside. Ambulances have to be inside. We can't store them outside. That's what the state says. Our ambulances are getting bigger. I don't know how we're going to fit our next ambulance in the station. That's how tight we're getting. If you've ever seen the inside of the station, it's pretty tight. So to get from one side of the station to the other, we have to open the outside doors sometimes. Or climb up, walk across the bumper to get to the other side. So on the other side of here, you can see the picture on the left. That's where the ambulances stack up, ambulance 1, 2, and 3. All 3 of our ambulances are advanced life support ambulances. Critical. So we can provide service in the field at a very high level. In fact, just recently, when I say recently, the last couple of years, we can actually go out in the field, work a cardiac arrest, do everything in the field that they can do in the hospital and call the cardiac arrest, not transport. So our medics are trained to that level, our equipment's at that level. This is where we're storing our apparatus. Pretty tight. Okay? One of the other big things with the station is, one of the leading causes of finding of firefighter deaths now, line of duty deaths, is cancer. 60% of line of duty deaths is caused by cancer. And people say, well, that's because you're going to fires and inhaling stuff. Well, no, we do a pretty good job actually wearing our protective equipment like we're supposed to. And there's 5 things just here, 5 things you can do to improve your health. Thing 1 is wear your self-contained breathing apparatus. We do that. Thing 2 is clean up. We have these special cloths that are, they're sort of like wet wipes, but they're much better, that we use. As soon as the guys come out, they clean their eyes, they clean their face, their neck, all the areas where you absorb, in your armpits, your groin, you clean all those areas as soon as you can. Thing 4 is wash your gear. We have a great extractor we got through a grant program from the state, paid 100% for it. We wash our gear. We have 2 sets of gear so firefighters can always switch out and put a brand new set of gear in. Item 5 is track every call that you go to so we know if it was a possibility. We do that. Every single call they go to, whether it's a chemical exposure, a smoke exposure, a medical exposure, we track all those. Number 3, right in the middle, says fix your station. Make your station a healthy station. Fire stations were never built with the intent of being healthy. When I came here to Northborough, there was the exhaust system they had in the fire station was nothing but a big fan that sucked out all the exhaust when the fire trucks, and if you ever seen a fire truck start up, that's not pretty. There's all the dust, all the smoke and all that stuff comes up. We take off full speed. It must be 6 o'clock because that's when my phone was making noise, and I apologize. It's not like we idle them. We start them up, we take off. Time we come back, they're not bad. We back them in, but the walls were black. All the vents throughout the station are all black. We have to have them cleaned out. So we have that issue. The sleeping quarters are open one door and you're exposed to the apparatus bay. We're sleeping almost we're sleeping in a garage. And people will tell you, well, it's just a big garage with bedrooms. It's a lot more than that. Okay, so we need to do that with our station. So these are the stations we can do. He's making the same noise because it's 6 o'clock. We try to be quiet. So this is a clean station concept. You have what's called a hot zone, a warm zone, and a cold zone. Hot zone is where all the dirty stuff is. It's where your dirty fire trucks are. It's where your dirty turnout gear is. It's where all your equipment is. That's the red area. The transition or the warm zone is the yellow area. So turnout gear used to, when I started in 78 as a volunteer firefighter, and when I started in 86 as a full-time firefighter, my turnout gear, my pants went up to my bed. And you remember the old books you read, and your turnout pants went right at the bottom of the bed. You swung around, you jumped in, and you put them on. That's what we did. Now it doesn't leave the apparatus floor. It doesn't go into the training room. It doesn't go into the kitchen. It doesn't go into the bedrooms. It stays on the apparatus floor. This actually is built in such a way so it has the airflow that keeps all the contaminants out of the warm zone. And then another kind of an airlock that keeps more contaminants out of the green zone. So this station, and this is actually the layout of the new station on the first floor, actually lays out the hot zone, the warm zone, and the cold zone. The whole second floor in the fire station is a cold zone. So the whole second floor is no contaminants. We do have a pole that's built into the new station, but that's built in such a way that it's got doors, it's got clamshells that close, and it's got pressurized air that comes down and pushes it out. So that's all that. How do we get where we are? I'm not going to give you the whole history of the feasibility committee and when this was first voted in. That's all for town meeting. You guys will see that presentation. If you stay at town meeting and stay to the second day and stay till after everything, then I get to present. So if you're really excited and want to stay and watch all that, you'll see a different one. But where we are right now, we're in we've done program develop, we've done schematic design, we're in design development right now. So design development is where you go through and you kind of finalize what the outside of the building is going to look like, what products we're going to use, what is, we have to go to ZBA, zoning board, and get some variances on a couple things, the height of the building, the size of the sign, our setbacks, certain things that we need as a fire station, right? We want to put an electronic sign downtown. The electronic sign will allow us to put up town meeting coming up instead of the Lions one that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, or the one that we tow around town. You guys have probably already seen down by the police station. This will give us the ability to do that, plus to say snowstorm coming or school closed or whatever we want to do. So we have to get some variances for that. We have to go to the planning board. We have to finish up with design review. Very important to understand how public facilities are built versus how your house is built. And I wish Chief Griffin had gotten into this, but there's this thing called prevailing wage. Guys, has anyone talked to you about prevailing wages?
Very familiar with it.
Prevailing wages drive me nuts. But it takes a project that could be $50,000 and makes it $150,000. Also, we have to bid everything, and everything has to go to the low bidder, and the low bidder may not have the product that we've specified. So we may specify a brick with red dye number 5. And the bidder, who may be lower bid, may say, I can do that, but it's red dye number 8. So it's kind of like it, but not really. We can't say no. We have to say yes. So it's really hard for us to say, this is what it's going to look like. We can say, this is what we want it to look like. This is what I think it's going to look like, but it's hard to say this is what we want it to look like. So if you look at what we have coming up. So as I said, we're here now, 229 to 529. We got ZBA coming up. We have design review. Tomorrow, we actually have a meeting on site at the fire station for what's called exterior product review. So I said, what's the exterior product review? We have to be on site, outside, to look at what the brick looks like outside. Because to look at brick inside doesn't look the same as it would look outside. So, well, I guess that kind of makes sense, right? So I'm hoping it's not supposed to rain tomorrow morning. It's supposed to be kind of cloudy. But if it rained, we would have to put easy ups, because we still have to be outside. We have to put easy ups up.
Through the chair. And this is brick that you might not even get if
Bricks, samples of retaining walls, and that's one of the important things for this. You're going to hear a lot of talk about retaining wall, and just to talk about that, it's kind of the elephant in the room. When we did the feasibility study, there was not a formal survey completed. They used the numbers off of the town GIS, which are iffy at best. They're not supposed to be exact. And a feasibility study isn't supposed to be exact. It's a feasibility study. Well, since that time, we've had a full survey. The size of the building has increased about 13%. It's gone up right around 3,000 square feet. And the reason it's gone up 3,000 square feet is because some things have changed, and we need maybe a different decon room or a bigger locker room for our gear, because we're looking at more people. So some of those things affected the size of the building. So it's gone up about 3,000 feet. 3,000 square feet. Also in that was, now we need a retaining wall. And it's not because the building's gone up 3,000 square feet, it's because we did a survey and found that the apparatus bay wasn't made quite big enough, and it wasn't sited on the land quite right. So we needed a retaining wall. That retaining wall can come in one of 6 different flavors. So the Fire Station Building Committee looked at them, reviewed them, and said, look, the straight wall, which is in our base, and I'll talk about price in just a minute, the straight wall, which our base cost is this. This barrier wall,
Terrorist?
battered wall, not terra, battered wall is,
Had a guess.
it's close. The battered wall is about $269,000 more. The terraced battered wall is about $269 plus another $150,000. The terraced wall, which is the one that goes up, over, and you can plant stuff, is about $650,000 more than the original price. So as a fire station building committee, we made the decision to send to design review 3 of those walls to pick from. One of which was the straight wall, the other one which was the battered wall, and a third one which was the battered terrace, which was battered. A battered wall is when it goes up. You have the straight wall, battered wall, or the terrace wall, right? Battered terrace goes up about 9 feet, comes over 15, and goes up again. Each of those walls goes back a little bit further, takes a little bit more of the land behind the fire station, which I think every other committee in the darn town has been talking about using for parking. which is not part of this design process, and we're not talking about that, but if they want to use it for parking, the more land we take, the more difficult it is for parking. So that's one of the important things to understand, how we ended up with a wall. So our next steps, after we get our document, our design review done, is to do our construction documents. Construction documents are when we actually get a much more exact cost of what it's going to cost to build that building. So the numbers we have now are based on a lot of speculation. And I'll talk about that as soon as I get there. We don't have those exact numbers right now. The deadline for the select board to place this project on the ballot is September 24th. So the select board has to vote with a supermajority, 4/5, to place it on a ballot. We're looking at a special town meeting on sometime the first 2 weeks of October. I'm looking for 10 and 7 for 2 reasons. 7's my lucky number, and it's also my birthday, so I figured it'd be a great time to have a special town meeting, right? And then it's a debt exclusion vote. The debt exclusion vote will be the same, will be paired with the national election. We're really excited about that because we'll think we'll get a good turnout as opposed to just people who have a one-item thing that they're coming out to vote. We're going to get everybody out, so we're excited about that. This is just an example of the site design. I have some of the walls, so this is the straight wall design. This is the batter wall design. You can see it's down in the lower left-hand corner. It's a little bit more of an angle. You have a little bit more of it. This is a cross section. This is the batter wall with the terrace design. And again, you can see it goes further and further back, comes up over and terraced. And this is the terrace design. Every one increases, goes further back, is a little bit more expensive. The landscape design, and the reason we included this in here was to show you that there's a 911 memorial in town. Does everybody know where the 9/11 memorial in town is? Everybody visit it? You know, most people don't even know where it is. It's at the corner of Church and Pleasant. And it was a project by Boy Scout Troop 1. And it sits at the corner of Church and Pleasant, and it's behind some bushes, and it's very well maintained, but people don't know it's there. So my proposal, and several of my guys came to me and said, hey, let's move this to the new station. It would be great. People can actually see it. We can put a bench there, and that's why this is here to show the bench and to show the area, an area of where we would put the memorial, which is right by the front door, right next to a flagpole. We've already reached out, and Tom Reardon, one of the members of the Fire Station Building Committee, is reaching out to the father of the Eagle Scout that did the project to see if he has any issues with it. Because although they donated it to the town and the town owns it and can do what it wants with it, my opinion, having come up through Scouts, I was never an Eagle Scout. I never had the drive to do that. But being a Scout leader with all my kids, you ask them if it's okay with them, if it's okay if we move it. I think that's the appropriate thing to do. So we're trying to do that before we move it. So that's why the landscape design's here. Again, the interior design is nothing fancy. We have nothing extra, nothing that we don't need. Really important to understand the room on the far right. It looks like it's an appendage sticking out there. That is our training room. So that's for a classroom. And we do training all the time. We do upwards of 2,000 plus hours of training every year. That includes monthly EMS training we're required to do. That means that's weekly fire training that we do, all kinds of training. That will also be the official town emergency operations center, which currently is in the training room at the police department. Okay? We need to move it from there, and we want to move it to here, and this will be where someone talked about tech. This will be a high-tech room. This will have drops for everybody. This will have VoIP, voice over internet protocol phones, so anyone can bring their phone, plug it in, and their phone extension stays the same. This will have a lot of tech for it. So that's very important for this room to understand that. Second floor, one of the big things on the second floor is that each firefighter will have their own bedroom at a staffing of 7 people. Why is that important? First of all, we have 2 bedrooms right now. 3 in one bedroom, 2 in the other. I have no gender separation. At this point in time, we have no female firefighters, but we did in the past, and we actually have some that we're looking at maybe hopefully coming up on a list soon. Okay? Makes it difficult. Also, during COVID, I was scared to death when one firefighter got COVID, everybody was going to get COVID because you're sleeping in the same room about 2 feet from each other. We went over 2 years before someone got COVID. And that was because of the protocols that we put in place and the people wearing masks and the and cleaning our apparatus, but this will help with that. Also, the flu and colds and any other sickness. When I have a shift that gets sick, the whole shift gets sick. It may not happen that first time the first guy gets sick, but it goes over the course of a couple weeks, and now I have to backfill. So that's all this. So that's why these are all done. And again, there's nothing fancy. One of the things we have in here also is 2 outdoor terraces. Well, why is that important? Well, one of the other leading causes of death besides cancer is suicide. Firefighters, police officers, emergency responders are exposed to a lot of stuff that most people aren't. Look, if you're out in the field and you're cutting a child out of a car, or you're doing CPR on a baby, or you have to tell somebody that their significant other passed away, that is a lot of trauma that you're dealing with. You don't see it, but it's a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of studies, and a lot of things says you need outdoor spaces. You need they can have a place to decompress. They can go out. They can look at leaves. They can have their own garden. They can do. These are all things that are helping it. So that's why these are built into it. Plus, it helps with the green building. The one on the left in the back of terrace is a green roof. So we're hoping to be able to put a garden in there for the guys to do their own. We've had them in the past. You guys probably don't know, there's a little porch on the second floor of the fire station if you drive by, right up above the radio room. And we used to have guys would do plants out there and stuff, but it takes a beating from the sun. There's no cover over it. There's no way to control it. So they had stopped doing that. So I'm just going to take you around the station real quick. I do want to emphasize that this is a red brick construction. It's to emphasize some of the current downtown buildings. And what did the police chief tell you was happening with the police station? It's rotting. You don't build municipal buildings with wood. You don't, because it rots and it falls apart. You also don't put as many fancy decorations on the windows and over the doors that are wood, because they rot and the maintenance cost goes up. So we're really concerned with the long-term cost of this station. We know it's going to cost a lot of money, but we don't want it to cost a lot of money to maintain. So one of the things the Fire Station Building Committee said is, how can we lower that cost? What things can we do? So we didn't put a lot of wood on. If you look at the doors, they're green, and directly over the doors, that's green metal. Okay, we're looking at different types of materials, but there's that. There's that banding that runs across the station. That's all masonry. So there's masonry all around. There's the clock up on top. One of my captains has insisted from day one, and he's getting ready to retire. He's going to be retiring pretty soon, Captain Brillhart. He wants that darn clock up there. I happen to love the clock. I think it's a great idea. And down below the clock, there's a little gray area, and that's got a Maltese cross. You all know what a Maltese cross is. It's a symbol of the fire service. So that's why that's there. This is the bird's eye view. And I wanted to show you this for a couple of reasons. The things you see on top are called roof monitors. Those allow natural light to come into the apparatus space, so we don't have to use as much artificial light. Again, much more green living, and much better for working using natural light as opposed to using artificial light. It also gives us platforms for PV. The code requires us to have the ability and build the station to put in photovoltaic cells. Doesn't say we have to put them in, but we have to be able to. This gives us that ability to do that.
Chief, are they the right orientation?
They are. They're facing south.
Okay.
So they're facing south. Well, you got that big wall back there. You're right. The big wall's back there. The wall. That's why we recommended the battered terrace wall, because it goes back and it gives us more sunshine into that area. So we really think that would be good. You're also going to notice, I wish I had a pointer, but there's 2 coverings for each of the pergolas. Thank you for each. Who said that? Was that you? Thank you. That's why I brought them along, for the outside areas so the firefighters don't get cooked to a crisp. That was actually the recommendation of someone from Design Review. He said, you really want to put something out there to help protect them. So that's what those are for, right? You go around the station. This is looking at it from the northeast elevation. This is looking at it from the northwest elevation. This is that 9/11 memorial I want to move, and that's going to go right. See where those little people are standing? It's going to go right where those people are standing, right in that area. This is the sign we want to put up. This is the one that the Fire Station Building Committee voted on. We thought it was a nice sign. We love the brick. It matches the station with the banding across of it, so we picked that one. This is the west elevation and the east elevation. Southwest elevation, I'm sorry. This is the direct south elevation. Notice it's not pretty. There's not arches over the doors. It's not quite as pretty. Why? It's facing the wall, and we don't want to spend money that we don't need to pretty up the back of the station. We want the front of the station. That's kind of a gateway, right? We're looking at the Master Plan Implementation Committee. We want to make it look nice. We want it to be attractive and set that ground, the anchor for that coming in. But the back of the building, we thought, let's keep it as simple as possible. This is the southeast elevation and the east elevation. And importantly, if you look at the east elevation, that's looking at the wall in the back. And to give you an idea of what the wall would look like, that's a car there. Understand, you're not looking at that wall because there's all kinds of vegetation that's going to be there. There's trees that are going to be going up. There's a driveway that's going to be going there. So as you're coming up the road, you're not looking right at that wall. But we thought it's important for you guys to understand what it would look like. So that's what that looks like. I'm not going to go over how we got to the cost, but I do want to just hit the cost real quick. 43 to 49 million. Okay, it's important to understand that's hard cost and soft cost. Hard cost, our actual construction cost was just $30.9 million. That's to build it. Oh my God, that's a lot more than the feasibility said. Well, since that feasibility was done, we've had escalations of anywhere from 20 to 30% a year. Build a new house, buy a new car, buy a new fire engine. This isn't us, this is across the country. Furnishings and equipment, such a broad number because 0.73 to 1.35 depending on what we put in, right? You have contingencies from 4.1 to 4.7. One of the things we've been asked to look at is geothermal heating system. Green. You know what a geothermal heating system costs for a fire station? 2.6 million. So that base price of the low base price doesn't include the geothermal. The high base price doesn't include the geothermal. We've already cut off almost $1 million for an extension of our radio up to the radio tower up on top of the water tower. We cut that out. We cut out the $600,000 for the extra wall. That came out. So that 49 point whatever million, that's already coming down. That's also based on a lot of speculation by the cost estimator. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what costs are going to be necessarily when we start. He doesn't know what product we're using. He doesn't know what we're going to use for doors or for what, right? So he has to estimate a bunch of stuff. So the architects and our owner's project manager were very careful to tell us that number could come below 43 million. We don't know, but we'll have a better idea when we get closer towards town meeting before when we get to the numbers. So these are those hard cost estimates I just threw out. I'm not going to ask you to see them because they're really hard to see, but the things that are crossed out, the 612,000 for the wall, the 900,000 for the radio antenna, no, we can't justify those. We just can't. Okay. So this I thought was a very important slide to include, and this is from our cost estimator. These costs are good until late 2024. We go past 2024, and you're going to see an increase of at least 7 to 10% every year right now, unless we have another pandemic. So if we don't pass it, this year, that's okay. I understand. It's a lot of money. I get it. But it'd be unfair of me or the Fire Station Building Committee to not inform the people that this is a concern. And then this is the last thing. You guys have probably driven by the site. It's got a sign with a QR with a nb-firestation.org. I wanted to put the QR code, but I was told by the police if you put a QR code, someone scanned it and they wrecked, that'd be our problem. So we didn't put the QR code on there. But it does have the nb-firestation.org, and that will take you to the fire department project site, which has all the presentations we've done. It has links to all of our meetings, all the videos, has all the future meetings coming up. We keep it as updated as possible. The most important thing on that page is our frequently asked questions. That is maintained by the guy behind me on a weekly basis. And what happens is we get emails, and everyone on the fire station committee will get the email. How about this? Did you think about this? That immediately goes into the frequently asked questions, and it gets updated. Because if one person is asking that question, 30 other people probably have that question. So take a few minutes, go on there. How many questions do you have on there now, Deb? 40-some?
I don't know.
Crazy.
The table of contents is 2 pages.
It's huge. The table of contents is 2 pages. Go in there, take a look. That's questions we've been asked, things that we thought you should know, really important stuff. So that's where we currently are. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to it. Any questions you have at a fire station, I'm sorry, I tried to go as quick as I could through that. I'm happy to answer.
I have one.
Just one?
Just one. Well, it might be two parts to it. But, okay, so talking about the cost and everything, right? And the estimate you're saying is good through 2024. So I guess my question is, from the time that this gets approved, how long to actually build and complete?
Awesome question.
And so the follow-up to that is, are there also then additional costs that are really built into that? I mean, I'm assuming that the contractor, looking at a bid today, right, and giving you an estimate, is building in their language that says, as materials increase, this is going to go up. So if we're looking at something that might take 2 years or 3 years to complete, I'm assuming that they're going to want to pass the cost increases along as construction goes.
So a couple things. So first, let me take the first question first, okay? We do the bid documents. If it gets approved at the ballot, we won't be spending any money until after the first of the year. And then that's when we'll start doing maybe some site work, some stuff, because we may have to remove some land. I'm not planning on blasting. They're actually gonna be doing borings next week to tell us what the ground is made up of, so we'll know what we have to do. So construction would start sometime, hopefully, January, February, right? The estimate right now is, if everything goes as planned, is sometime in the first quarter of 2026. It'll be done. So January, February, March of 2026.
Okay.
Which is really fascinating because my retirement date is January, February, March of 2026. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. So that's when we should be able to occupy it. Second half of the question, and I think the town administrator could probably answer this better than I can, but you'll see there's contingencies of $4.7 million. So contingencies are like, okay, if something changes, whatever, we have to have those contingencies to cover some of those costs. I don't believe they can change their price once they bid the price. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's Mass General Law, there's two sections, there's 39M for DP, for public works, and then 149 for public construction of buildings. So they'll pre-qualify people, and I don't want this long-winded answer, but they'll pre-qualify the subcontractors, and the main contract will go out to a general contractor, and their price will be their price, unless there's some unforeseen mitigating circumstance. But that contingency will be the owner's contingency to use if there's something that the committee wants to add, or the community wants to add to the project, or something's unforeseen. So if they bid 40 million on their construction cost, it's 40 million.
Okay, all right.
And one of the big, an important word to keep, two words to keep in mind are change orders. Okay, change orders are expensive. So a change order is, we've done everything, we've done the document, we've started construction, and someone says, you know what, I want to change the windows. Now the windows we may be purchasing may be the same price, but that change order is expensive because now it's changing architecture drawing, changing planning, changing all that. So we avoid that. We try to avoid that, and Mass state law has a particular way to avoid that, and you have to hire an owner's project manager. So an OPM is an architect that we hire that works for us that oversees the project. The owner's project manager we have hired is Colliers. Colliers is the same owner's project manager that oversaw Lincoln Street School that came in about $1 million under budget. Now, that's not why we hired them. We hired them because they were good, because they had the best presentation. But that's what a good owner's project manager can do for you. So your final price may be 43 million, but if you work hard and you keep your change orders to a minimum and you do whatever you can to maintain your schedule and your time, it can come in actually below cost. So there's all those things to look at. I can't think of anything major that we're going to run into. We try to address everything. We did the site testing. We did a bunch of stuff before. The site had to be cleaned up after we bought it, or excuse me, before we bought it, by the previous owner. And that's why we bought it with a contingency that he had to clean it up. So he had to remediate some hazards that were in there. He tore down the buildings because it was cheaper for him to tear down the buildings and not pay prevailing wages than for us to tear down the buildings and pay prevailing wages, which is why they got torn down early. That answer your question?
Yeah, you did. I mean, I was asking the question because we're in the process of working with builders on the construction of a house, and every single one of them are building in wiggle room, because they've been hammered over the last 3 to 4 years with unexpected surges in not only lumber, now it's sheetrock, right? So as one thing is going up, like, and so they're basically saying, like, this is the estimate today, but listen, if things go up 20 or 30% in the next 6 months, we're passing that along to you.
So one of the things we can do, and I'm
Risk.
going to forget the darn name of it, and Tim, you can help me out here. They can purchase items now that they're going to install, not now, but they can purchase items once we approve the contract, right, everything, that they're going to install 18 months later. Do you remember what that's called?
The only I'm thinking about is construction manager at risk, but that's not it.
There's a name for it. I'm going to forget the name of it. It's a certain, we
Stored
talked,
materials?
huh?
Stored materials.
It's
on the
not
IA
stored materials,
it's
there's a
on the
certain way,
IA document.
there's a certain way of designing it, but they can, it's a certain term for it, and when I think of it, I'll send it to you guys, and I'll feel horrible, because I know it's pretty simple. But it allows them to take advantage of those 2-year lead times
Yep.
and those costs. So if I order something now and I order it at $500,000, this can take me 2 years. Electrical switching is a great example. There's been all kinds of delays in that. They can order it now, it comes in 2 years, but I'm paying what I ordered it now for.
You've done a great job so far, bringing this to fruition. You've been the person that's going to get it over the goal.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, because the finish line, you're so energetic and enthusiastic about it. And I fully support what you have done and what you're proposing to do. But because I was here in town when we had to consider a renovation versus a new build for the high school, it took a couple of tries to get it over the finish line. Do you have an aggressive backup plan in case, I know you don't want to think that way, but it's really kind of smart to have a backup plan?
It's a great question, and that will have to be something that will be addressed when it comes, because here's the issues. We've purchased that land, and that's the land that we're going to go. If they don't want to build the station that we need there in the size station, now we have to look at alternatives, which would potentially include 2 stations.
I'm not asking so much for that as that you would try again with the same project. It's, if at first you don't
Oh, yeah,
succeed, try
we certainly would.
again. I mean,
Right now, we'd come back with the same exact project, because
I'm saying, like, would you try next spring? Would you try at regular town meeting? You understand what I'm saying?
I certainly do.
How aggressive? Because it's been your life. It's been a life of a lot of people in this room, and they've been thinking about it and reading about it or being proactive in the process. A lot of people are just hearing it for the first time and they're shocked. They have sticker shock. And so they might not come out to buy the first go-round.
which is why I put the slide up that says, if we don't buy the first round, I understand.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any cheaper. And what some people will then say was, well, then let's cut it down. Okay, so if it's going up 10% and I cut 10% off the building, I'm at the same price I was now for less building. And then you're going to say, well, it's still too much money, so the next year cut 10, and now we're going to, right? So the only contingency really, and we've talked about this, and I don't know if you want to speak to it, Tim, but the station's being built where it is, and how many of you followed the feasibility study as we did the feasibility study and we looked, if we move that station out of downtown, we have, and we move it further out, and you'll hear things, well, build it where White Cliffs is, or build it. Once we get a certain distance away from the center of town, it affects our response times. And our response times are critical. Okay, really critical when it comes to our ISO ratings and when it comes to survivability for medical calls. So now you're talking a second station in a different location, more equipment, more staffing. You can't just take everyone out of, right? So it actually doesn't save you money, but it gives you a second station is what it gives you. So we think it's the perfect location. Yeah, let me correct that. There is no such thing as the perfect location. I have a great letter from then Chief Pierce when they approved the station where it is, and he said, it's not the perfect location, but it's much better than what we have now, and we'll make it work. Because we have to exit out through Church in West Main. Not a good place to exit out of. We have to do, not the best, but it works. There's no such thing as the perfect station. Where we're going to be now, we're going to have kind of a limited site going towards the west, right? Because we got the turn there, but we now have preemption systems in, things that we can put that puts red lights up. So it stops people from coming through. So we have things they didn't have back then that will help us a lot. No such thing as a perfect site. Best site for what we have downtown? Yeah, it's a great site.
Just a question.
No, it's a fair question. I don't know if Tim wants to,
It's just unfortunate, if it doesn't pass, you're gonna live in that station for however long it takes to ask the question again. That's unfortunately the only, if they're not gonna do that, they probably won't do something different.
renovate where we are. We've gone through that. That was part of the feasibility committee. We'd have to find a place for us to live for 2 years, so you have that cost, right? Because firefighters, what are they gonna do? They're
Oh,
not
I'm
gonna.
not even thinking that you
No, but I'm just
ought to
saying that there's all
consider
different
alternatives.
options.
You just need to sell again because the message just hasn't gotten out there
Yep.
for full support.
Yeah, and, once things, I can do all this selling of this project here. I can go to I can go to the Lions Club, but that stops after a certain point because state law says we can't use town funds to
Campaign,
pardon?
to campaign.
To campaign. We're not allowed to campaign, to push a ballot
question,
measure.
yeah.
So I can't do that after a certain point of time. Now, if a committee forms in town independently of citizens who want to push it, they can do that. Firefighters Union could do it, different groups could do it, right? But we can't do it. So my goal is to sell as much as possible before the special town meeting, and then
You're
hopefully
doing a
they'll
great
carry it.
job.
Anybody else? Chief, thank you very much.
No
And-
problem.
And thank you for you and your team in keeping us safe.
We love it. It's a great job. If you have questions, you want to see the fire station, come see it, where we are now. I strongly recommend it. I invite anyone that wants to come down. It's your building. It's your fire station. Come down. Myself, the deputy, will take you on a tour. We'll show you what's going on.
I'm afraid I might trip and hurt myself. There's things are so parked so
So
closely.
if you
There's
come
not
right
enough
now,
room
you're
to
okay
move.
because I have 2 trucks that are out getting repaired. So you have a little extra room, but normally when you come, there's not much. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Good. Thanks, Chief. All right. Next up,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to take a brief recess if we could.
can we take 5?
5.
Okay, 6:42 PM. After a slight bio break, the committee is reconvening. Jason Little, capital budget, please.
Okay, so I'm pleased to report there have been no changes in the capital budget since our previous meeting
Okay,
last
good.
week. So staying with what we had.
All right. Good.
Just for reference, it's this document here that
Yes.
says March 5th on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully, everyone had a chance to review this into last week. Any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions based on what we've presented, but watching the presentations tonight, I saw the police department talking about the cameras. Is there any way we can escalate that? Being unfamiliar with the capital process in this community.
Okay.
Again,
So
my question is, can we elevate that as a priority?
We've had this 6-year financial trend monitoring system, so you've got a horizon of things like that. And is your question, can we or should we, based on urgency, bring that closer in? Is that your question?
My personal opinion is that I would like to see it move forward quicker.
Okay.
But I also know we have a committee, we also have a town manager, and we got a board of selectmen, and there's a town warrant issue. But not knowing how the mechanism would work in this community, I'm just wondering, is it feasible to do that?
I believe the warrant's closed already, so that there's no warrant
So the
article
answer's
this
no.
year.
Well, for the
Yeah,
current,
yes
the
and no.
current articles, we're too late.
Okay.
But what I want to talk about with this committee in a few minutes is, going forward, we were time boxed on this based on when we started. I think going forward, I think we should discuss the process and have you all better understand what it is and how we work with the departments and the staff going forward.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Question, Susan?
It's not within our purview, but the only place I could see that you could get him that money is if the Board of Selectmen decided to accept it as an ARPA expenditure. I don't know what their plans are. I haven't seen their budget of what they're planning to do with the rest of the funds, but it's certainly something the police department could put in if they were willing to take a look at it.
Well, I don't know, I think it's important that everything be planned, right? Because if all of a sudden you allow everybody to just put a request forward, they're gonna get inundated, and how do you segregate
Well,
what?
that's where we're an advisory board, and you would hope that over time, we would develop a relationship with issues like this, that there aren't any redundancies in what's in the capital plan versus what's being asked, say, of a Board of Selectmen with some extra funds that they have. So hopefully if we thought it was really important to go forward, we could make a recommendation they consider it.
I'm just worried about the liability. They have one cell that's down, their interviewing station is down. He had 6 cameras down. It's a tremendous liability for the town to take, and I don't know if it's worth the liability not to move forward with it, but again, I'm just asking, I know what our preview is, and I'm just asking the mechanisms.
And Ken, to your point, that communication center upgrades for the police department were on last year's fiscal '25 forecast. And he's pushing it out. So,
Yeah. Okay.
I am assuming that they're working on repairing those cameras,
Yes.
right? I mean, they're not just going to sit here for 2 years.
it sounded that way.
Yeah.
My impression, it sounds that way.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But to your point, the break fix cost is real, and we gotta be a professional organization and be prepared and fix those as they go. This is a snapshot in time for what the chief's showing you today, and making a case for 2029. If it was imperative to get it done in this fiscal year, he would have made that case pretty clearly, I would hope.
I assume that also, but again, having my background, camera costs only escalate over time because they become outdated, the technology changes, that's not compatible with what you have now, so you need to change more stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's a relatively small cost, right? Not doing the whole 9/11 center, not 9/11, but the 911 center over again, but just the cameras. as a safety issue for the officers on site and for liability for the town is worth a discussion. But, I know there's a process.
Yeah, could I just add that?
Jason,
I
please.
believe, I haven't seen the complete list of the ARPA-funded projects, but I think that replacing the cameras was something that was suggested as a use for ARPA. So, I think, we'll wait to see what the,
And that shouldn't be a long lead time, because I know the ARPA is
Correct.
going to be used by
it's
the
got to
end
be
of the year, right?
obligated by
the end of the
December.
year.
Yeah.
So, meaning that we would have to sign contracts with vendors by that point.
Okay.
There's a
Well, we'd
hopeful
have to
chance that it
award it
might be
and-
on a list that somebody might consider. That's good news.
It could be. So, I mean, in terms of when I say yes and no, that it's not in a segregated article of its own right now, but there is a possibility that it could be considered outside of that, and that was the heart of my comment of yes or no.
Thank you.
Yes and no.
Okay. So are we moving on to reviewing the articles for the report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we have a handout.
So if I may, the warrant, this is the entire warrant. I think it's online. Certainly the select board has had it. I gave you an excerpt of just the capital, so it'd be easier to follow along. But I wanted you to know that this is being reviewed by council now, so the board can sign it on the 25th, so it can be published and go through that process. So the excerpt has both the submittal, the legal language, and then a summary underneath that kind of summarizes. It should be right in your packet. There's no title on it because I just ripped it out today. And then the second piece is this draft, and this is a draft just in terms of the formatting of your usual process for, I'll just want to pass it down if you would. Sure. For financial planning, for your recommendations on any articles and your support one way or the other. So this is just the formatted document. You're used to seeing, at least the members.
Thank you.
It's, again, we marked it as a draft, it's just something to work off of. We're not insinuating how you should vote one way or the other on any support of the articles. You've been diligent in listening to department heads make their case. So inside this document, I'll just cover really quickly. If you go to page
Tim, which document? The one that's landscape?
46, yes.
Okay.
This one, all that gives you is the title of the project, if you will, the total, and then what the department head has summarized in 2 or 3 sentences that you've all heard already. So it's a lot of information, but we try to narrow it down as much as possible. But as Jason said, nothing's changed from the first meeting when we say the memo on the 27th of February, the use of free cash and bonding some of this, especially the fire truck, and then reallocating articles for things like the police department repainting / siding. That's in there as well.
So we would still need to, if we go with the verbiage that you've used for each article, we would still need to prioritize each one of these, correct?
Yeah, if that's what you historically have done, I mean, they're the only
That's
warrant
historically
articles available, so there's no competing articles in the warrant, but there might be a level of prioritization that the committee makes.
We
But-
do,
Yeah,
at least in the past we have. So I don't know if people want to continue doing that or not.
You'll notice on page 50, there's a table, capital projects priority,
Okay,
and it's 1 through 4.
okay, good.
Yeah, it's
So-
pretty clear.
All right, good. I hadn't gone that far.
Yep.
Thank you.
And there's a column, you'll see, if you continue, in the subsequent pages that lists the article number, the sponsor, the cost, the priority, and did this committee unanimously approve this or not? So there is a structure to the report and what the town will see.
Through the chair, it looks like the priorities have already been set.
Through the chair, it's just, this is just a draft.
Okay.
So
All right.
this was put together as a
Okay.
template for us to use going forward.
Right.
And the commentary and the actual votes, those are intended to be updated in this document.
Do you have any suggestions on where we should start to review? Should we start with?
The beginning.
For example, the beginning,
Sorry.
as opposed to the middle of the end. Should we start with the synopsis of the capital projects, which begins on page 45, excuse me, or go to the tables that begin on page 50?
I think we should go straight to the projects on page 50. That's a
Yeah.
nice suggestion.
Anybody feel?
Agreed.
Okay, all right, Shelley, okay. So, page 50, Article 16, Police Department, Police Cruiser Replacement, 140,000, we heard that earlier. And again, looking at the priorities,
Okay.
replacing old existing equipment, priority 2. And the language we have here, again, this is a draft. After our discussion, I assume Jason will begin to wordsmith any enhancements to this.
So is there anything else we want to add in there for a justification for a I don't even know if we're voting for it, so it's almost like we have to take a vote on it, or have a discussion about it, and then take a vote on it, and
We'll
then
discuss it, and then we'll vote on it,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
you know. Through the, we
Chair?
heard, sorry,
I know we're a little behind from what we usually are at this point in the year. Does it make sense to like redline it in Word and help with the process? Or, it's for you, Jason.
Well-
Like, does anything help you here to make your job easier?
Well, I would just see how this conversation goes
Okay.
tonight. So like, as we go along, if it seems like that's an appropriate response.
Yeah, not a
and-
recommendation, a
And if
question.
there's, I mean, my intent is not to speak, is to encapsulate what the committee's view is in this report, in a draft that I would pass back to this body to approve, is to encapsulate what the comments have been. So I think that's a good suggestion, but like, let's see how it goes. We may be able to move
So-
it along.
the police cruiser replacement, very fresh, we heard that earlier this evening, $140,000 funded from free cash, no additional tax impact. Any discussion or further questions, or do we want to add additional comments here?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this article
Okay?
for the police cruiser replacement.
We have a second over here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Point of order, what, are we gonna list the priority? Is that, or we're just gonna use the priority that's been
Well,
drafted?
again, Ken, in the discussion, the cost of project, the priority are there. If we disagree with it or we want to discuss it, then let's do that.
Okay, no, I
Okay.
just, again, a
The priority 2 was part of my
Right.
motion.
motion, okay.
Thank you.
The clarification.
So for example, okay, it's police cruisers, does it involve a safety or a health issue to meet a federal or state legal requirement, you know, a priority 1? Probably not,
Right.
okay? But again, as we go through these, if you have a question on the priority, then let's discuss.
It's an annual submission, to maintain their fleet. And it's been there for years, and it's going to continue to be, so I see it as a priority, too. I don't see a problem with priority 2
No,
at all. Yeah.
In a motion, let's just say it's a
Yeah.
priority to
Okay,
approve to,
okay.
Okay, thank you.
I was hoping to make the motion, and then he'd ask if we wanted to have some discussion, and then we would take a vote, so.
So I just have one question on this. I support it, but you had mentioned no additional tax impact, which is what it says here. But if you look over here, it says $140,000 be raised by taxation.
Is that the?
Police cruiser
the
replacements.
portrait?
Yes.
so in the warrant, you're seeing that?
Well, I'm seeing it on Article 16.
So usually in a draft of a warrant, at least in the past, you list all the possibilities of
Funding, yeah.
of funding, and then when they make the motion at the town meeting, they'll specify which source it's gonna be.
Yeah,
that correct?
if that's what you're looking at, if it's the draft of the warrant, through the chair, the intent is that the widest breadth of options is in the article, and then the motion that's gets made at town meeting specifies the source and the exact dollar amount when we go forward, so.
Okay, so what is the
Again-
source, though? Is
Uh,
it taxation? or-
It would be free cash
Okay. Okay.
in this case.
As
Yeah,
it's,
so-
as it's stated here with the, for, under ours, it says funded from free cash with no additional tax impact.
And also to help things be clearer too, once we get to town meeting, our intent has been to, and continue the practice of the past few years, is we print the motion as well as the article in the town meeting book. So
Okay.
the article will be exactly as you're reading it once the warrant's posted, but then the motion will be clear that it's free cash
Got it. Okay.
in the town meeting book.
Okay.
Once that's available.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, because it looks like
That's a frequent question, so you're not the only person
Yeah,
that would
thank
have
you.
that question. So-
Okay.
And you'll hear that dialogue at town meeting from the moderator in terms of proposing each article by article.
May I just make a proposal through the chair that?
Yes, please.
That somebody makes a motion, it gets seconded, we'll have a discussion, and then we'll vote, and then we'll get that all done before a vote. Questions out.
Okay?
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Article 17. Rescue 1 replacement, again, we just heard from the Chief Parenti. $1,250,000 funded from free cash, replacing a 2004 rescue pumper. And this is listed as a priority 2 also.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 17 to replace the pumper for the proposed $1,250,000, $250,000, yeah. Priority 2 is unanimous. Or I don't make it unanimous, that's going to be on the vote.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
The only discussion point I have, and this is for Jason, based on all these free cashes, we definitely have enough free cash. Are we running a tally?
Well, can I chime in on this one? This is just in the draft right now. This is the biggest article in the capital plan this
Right.
year. And this was proposed because we don't have free cash sufficient enough to pay for every article. This is the one that was proposed to be broken out into a borrowing authorization in addition to free cash. So I think that it's not entirely accurate to say it's funded from free cash. There is some free cash that's being applied in the free cash plan that as it's written, but,
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if you have to go back to this particular sheet,
Right here.
because it'll break it out by column. So
Yeah,
you'll see, just, Jason, I'm gonna just
Oh, yeah,
run through this
sure.
real quick.
Yeah.
So the $1,250,000 free of that, $492,920 is free cash. There's other available articles that will close out at town meeting for $11,238, and general obligation bonds all the way to the right in that column is the $745,842, to give you the total.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend my motion
Okay?
to any other sources that are available to the town.
All right, so you're proposing we,
Use free cash and any other sources that are available to the town.
Perfect.
so modify the language on that to reflect that, yes?
Yes.
Okay?
So when we turn the page to, I guess it's 51, it's still the Rescue 1 replacement, and under the verbiage, it says funded from free cash with no additional tax impact, so that will have to be amended.
yeah, that's what will need to be amended.
Yeah.
And to Ken's point, I think we will reflect that as being as in the proposed draft free cash plan.
Okay, so we have a motion to modify that bullet point for Article 17 to reflect funded from free cash with no additional tax impacts and any other sources. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
Second?
Second? Okay?
The chair, is that clear that, I mean, I'm assuming the general bond fund has a tax impact if we were to use that as a source of funding?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is
So It's
it,
going to be amended.
is it, yeah, no, I'm just making sure it's clear enough for someone that is at town meeting. If it says funded from free cash with no additional tax impact plus other funds available, the no additional tax impact, it may not be clear to someone that is looking at the warrant?
We would have to.
Yeah, I
We're
think
gonna
that,
take
I think
that out.
that language is
That
gonna be
language.
stricken
Okay.
and replaced with.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if the free cash with no additional tax impact was just qualifying to the free cash plus the other, but I'm
It'll be
tracking.
free cash, other available funds, and general fund bonds.
Good,
Right, and
thank you.
we'll update that to be
Okay.
accurate.
All right.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes,
I think
please.
I have two points. Logistically, for this, because it's borrowing, it'll take 2/3 majority vote at town meeting. You might already know that, but it gets, we have the clickers this year, so the count should be quicker. But just know that that could be one of the things that could slow us down when we go through this process. And then the second piece of this, I think you told me that the committee usually votes for the chair to work on the language. Because what we did today, quite honestly, is we cut and pasted a lot of information into this document to be workable. And so we screwed up by not including the fact there's a $16 a year tax impact when you borrow that $742,000. So that's not in there because we just haven't got there yet. But we would add it as long as the committee still wants to work that way, where it still comes back to the committee, but the chair can work with Jason to get
So
that language.
are you
to where
suggesting
want it.
that on these articles where there is a tax impact, you want to articulate what the projected tax impact to residents would be? Yes?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think that's, complete transparency.
Okay, all right. Any, Susan?
I would recommend that when you do the verbiage for this one, that you do put down about the 2/3 majority vote is
Sure.
needed, so that when the townspeople are reading it, they understand the impact of how important, if you really want to pass it, you got to get everybody to get their hands up,
And
or
in
their
addi-
clickers.
And in addition, I believe that on items like that, the moderator will bring that to the meeting's attention.
Yeah.
He'll need to certify that it passed by a 2/3 margin for the
But it's good
record.
to put in here.
Yeah, it is,
Thank
yes.
thank you.
Okay, so any further discussion? Do we hear a motion to approve Article 17 as amended? Language,
Aye.
Aye.
okay?
Aye.
Okay,
Hi.
all those in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. All right. Article 18, DPW facilities. The facilities HVAC upgrade modernization, $250,000. Priority 2, replace portions of HVA systems at the police station, library, and senior center, funded from free cash with no additional tax impact. Looks like that dot point's been cut and pasted, so
Well, I checked again.
we'll pick it up every
Check this
line.
That
item.
one's accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 18 for the $250,000 to perform specified, but HVA systems in the police station, library, and senior center.
Okay,
Second.
any further discussion? No? Question?
I would just like to highlight that we need to do a good job of speaking within departments, because when we heard the fire chief, the police chief, he was talking about and answering questions about the need for an HVAC system for his new renovation kind of thing
Yeah.
that he wants to do. And he's in the queue for it, it's just what they pick to do first, so.
Well, he's in the
he sh-
queue for the current, coming fiscal year.
Right.
When he looks at his facilities in the future, he's got to look at the overall
No, he was.
infrastructure.
He was just being asked the question that he would get some HVAC. I don't think he understands that the DPW facilities is actually looking at giving him a new fixing his HVAC.
In all fairness, we're not specifying where in the police station the HVAC.
Yeah.
When the DPW gave the explanation, there was a series of air conditioners
Oh.
for that department, and they're not replacing them all, they're replacing some at each
I
location.
know it's a segment, I just want them to communicate better,
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
knows that this is happening
Yeah.
for him, that's all.
All right, good. All right, do we have a motion to approve this Article 18?
I believe I made one?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Discussion, no
Okay,
vote.
any further discussion? Okay. Motion to approve Unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Article 19, the police station siding replacement. It's $130,000. It's a priority two also. And this is to fund the replacement of building exterior at the police station to be used in conjunction with the $70,000 appropriated last year, 2023 annual town meeting. Funded from free cash, no additional tax impact. We heard Chief Griffin talking about this, but this was, Mr. Charpentier presented this 2 weeks ago. Any questions?
I'll move to approve this article.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Couldn't we have a discussion?
Yeah, sorry.
The priority is a 1. Can I have an explanation of why you guys thought it would be a 1 versus a 2?
For the
This
police
is listed
station?
priorities two, Susan.
Oh, I'm
Article
sorry.
19.
Oh, okay. Right, I'm looking down at the bottom. Good,
Okay, all right.
good.
Okay.
We're on the same
Good.
page.
Scott Rogers, please.
Scott Rogers, 26 Tomahawk Drive, also Chair of the Appropriations Committee. Just for some additional information, there was a transfer made from appropriations reserves for architectural fees to get a better estimate on the siding for the police station. So that hopefully is in motion, so it reduces the risk of this article and provides more information, maybe in time for town meeting in the discussion of this article.
That sounds great.
So you're implying that this might be less than 130,000?
Just that instead of the architectural fees being, and that architectural estimation being delayed until this article was approved, and then that assessment being done sooner in time, paid for out of appropriations reserve. So it'll provide more information for town meeting and reduce the risk and the unknowns of, for the discussion during town meeting.
Okay.
May not change it won't change the amount that needs to be appropriated, but it reduces the overall project risk.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and, could I just make the comment too? We would correct the cost to be 200,000 here too, as well. Because the proposal is 130s coming from free cash and 70s being reappropriated from the existing article. So same comment that no additional tax impact, but we'd lay that out in this commentary.
But the cost being appropriated at the town meeting is only 130.
The additional cost is
Yeah, additional cost,
130.
but what you're
So
appropriating
it's-
at the town
The
meeting
article
for
will be
this article is
200, yes.
130.
The article will be 200, but 70 is being reappropriated from an existing article. So the net difference is 130, obviously, so we'd want it to be clear that it's a $200,000 article.
Would make sure that the way you word your article, you're clearly letting people know that you're really only appropriating 130,000. Because the cost
New.
is 200,000, but you're only appropriating, because you already appropriated 70 previously, right?
Right.
Right, we're reappropriating the 70 for a similar purpose, but for this article, rather than the original 70.
Can I just
So
suggest that,
we're saying the same thing, I think,
Okay.
but.
may I suggest that you just change funded from free cash with no additional tax impact, just to break it out, that it's going to be 130 from free cash and it's going to be 70 from fiscal year 2023, just make it really
Correct.
clear.
Yeah.
That
That's
verbiage.
what my
Yeah, okay.
comment was
Okay.
intended to say.
All right. Further discussion?
Through the chair, just a comment, I was encouraged by the comments around not having to build a police station and making this investment. I think when Scott was here, it was a little bit less clear, like we might be spending this for temporary reasons, but it was encouraged to hear that conversation tonight.
Good, okay. I was too. And there's a feasibility relative to a 40-year-old building, needs to be upgraded and repaired. But yeah, not like tear it down and go build a new one. Yeah. Okay. Further questions? Okay. Do we have a vote?
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Article 20, fire station brick repointing and sealing, requested by DPW and Facilities, $80,000. It is a priority one, and a request to fund the repointing and sealing of the bricks at the fire station at Pierce Street, funded from free cash with no additional tax impact. It's actually in there twice. Do we have,
I'll make a motion to
motion?
accept Article 20 for the fire station brick pointing and sealing.
okay,
Second.
okay,
I'd like to ask if we could consider putting something in there for why we're doing this, because there seems to be some question about why this particular building is getting worked on when we're building one. So I think if there's some more verbiage there for the townspeople to understand that it's to restore the facade to prevent future damage from water invasion. And we're sealing the brick facade to prevent moisture infiltration. And I
There's-
took that from their recommendations.
there's a sentence or two to that effect
Yeah.
in this other document.
But I think it's, people, this is their cheat sheet and,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we'll add that then.
At that.
And then, is it a priority one? Are we worried about a health issue? Why is it a priority one versus a priority?
There is a large blue tarp over that part of the fire station today.
Okay.
And there is water intrusion leaking into some of the communications area. And so they're concerned about further damage, was my recollection from when Mr. Charpentier presented this a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so, but it's not, is it a safety or a health issue, or to meet a federal? That's why I'm asking.
I have to presume that they're concerned about mold and everything else.
Okay,
So the question is it a one or a two?
I know when you have water infiltration, you can create structural problems. So that would classify for me as a safety issue.
okay, all right,
It happened down in Florida in that condo.
okay,
They didn't take care of the water infiltration and
I
the
just-
building collapsed.
Yep.
all right.
Okay, any further discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve Article 20 with the amended language, $80,000 for the fire station brick repointing and sealing as a priority one?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Article 20 for $80,000 listed as a priority one for the sealing of the bricks at the fire station.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous? Okay, thank you. Article 21. DPW and Highway Department are requesting capital for roadway improvements and maintenance, $310,000, priority two, to maintain current road conditions in accordance with the pavement management plan and to be in compliance with the state's Chapter 90 transportation funding, funded for free cash with no additional tax impact. Do we have,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve Article 21 to perform road repair on Chapter 90 roads throughout the town for $310,000, priority two.
okay. Any second?
Second,
Okay, discussion?
I'd actually like to see this number higher.
I'm with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel our roads are pretty poor, and I know that, we spec out at a 75, 76. Like maybe for next year, we could ask Scott, like, what would it take to get us to an 80 or an 85? I mean, roads, I think, are one of the first things that people notice when they drive into a town.
Right. And our main roads get pretty beat up, needless
They
to
do.
say. But, I think the short answer to your question is a box of money.
Yeah.
And I do recall him saying, they're trying to allocate X amount every year to stay up with that.
Yep.
But, can't throw unlimited dollars at it. Question, please.
yeah, we're funding a spending gap, a funding gap, is that correct, for this, from Chapter 90 transportation funds? So we're making up the difference. So if we were getting everything we were supposed to be getting from Chapter 90, would it be an annual expenditure of $1.1 million?
Correct.
All right.
The intent here is to provide $1.1 million of funding every year. There's $550,000 in Chapter 90 funding that comes from the state grant program. We have $300,000 in the operating budget, and then $310 here in this capital article as well. So that's how we meet the 1.1 million. Obviously, we could redirect money elsewhere should the state decide to fund Chapter 90 additionally, as we've sought in our legislative letters and so forth. To improve it, the point I just wanted to mention is that the DPW director does and contracts with an engineering firm to do a pavement condition index or roadway, they changed the title, roadway status index number. And to improve it, there's a trajectory of how much it would cost to improve it, and I don't have that figure in front of me, but $1.1 million was the amount that we've kind of committed to stay on par with where we're at with the C+, B-.
Yeah, I
level
mean,
roads.
it was really just more of a rhetorical comment. I
Yeah.
don't expect people to actually throw more money at it, but that's just, you know.
I agree with you, but I just don't trust Chapter 90 money that it will increase. It'll probably decrease, so.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Okay.
I mean, over the long haul, not next year.
Yeah, I mean, the formula is robust, right? It's based on lane miles of roads, and it's based on economic development, population, business, commercial and industrial property. So there's a lot of factors for it. I don't think it's gone down, because it's all based on the gas tax, where the money comes from. And so they talked about a penny, and then redistributing around 351 municipalities. There's communities that create a stabilization account, but it's still taxation.
Sure.
You're gonna create a stabilization account just for roads for $1 million, it's good, you'd have a $2 million plan, but I don't know if you get to 79 or 80, but I think it's a good point to ask how much you'd have to spend to get to 80.
Yeah.
At least you'll know.
I
Because
don't
what
expect-
happens, if free cash were to go away, this is like the purpose of this committee. If you didn't have this to allocate to this, you would go down precipitously. You'd be at 72, 69. So what would you do if we didn't have this?
Further questions, discussion?
Move the motion.
Okay. Motion to approve Article 21, roadway improvements and maintenance from the DPW and Highway Department, $310,000 is a priority two.
Aye.
Aye? I vote aye. Okay, unanimous on that, all right? Article 22. The DPW and Highway Department is requesting $95,000 for an enclosed public health trailer. It's a priority two. It's to fund the purchase of a new enclosed trailer to replace an existing one. It will provide improved service for the community events and activities such as elections, Apple Fest, health clinics, et cetera, to be funded from free cash with no additional tax impact. Do I hear a motion to,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 22 to fund a trailer for public health listed as priority two. And did they say for $95,000?
Yes.
For $95,000?
okay? Second. Second, okay. Discussion?
Through the chair, I wonder if this is a priority two or priority four. It wasn't clear to me if this was to truly, if it was to replace or to supplement what we have. And when I look at something like this and our responsibility to taxpayers, with a $700 average tax bill increase based on the numbers we're reviewing tonight, this one does give me pause. Well, like to proactively do this, and we will refurb, my understanding, some of the current trailer. So this one for me is not obvious.
For me also, I gave it a 3/4. I didn't think it was a 2 because it's just a new piece. We have one already.
If you go back to the table on page 50, priority two, equipment projects necessary to replace old existing equipment which is no longer cost-effective to repair with similar equipment. That's two. Priority 3 is projects required to increase capacity of existing facilities in order to accommodate the increase in growth in town. Priority 4 is projects designed to modernize and upgrade the existing town facilities.
I felt that he really wanted the piece of equipment to modernize what he had now to be able to put out in the community. That's how I felt about it, but that's just my opinion.
Any further discussion?
Who determines the 1, 2, 3, or 4?
The committee. We do.
Committee, okay.
Yeah,
Based on what I heard, I thought he was taking a trailer out of service, putting a new trailer in, which had more amenities to it, but is still replacing an existing piece of
Well, I
equipment.
heard he was still going to use that one.
I did
I thought he was gonna use it for something else.
I don't know.
So the old one will be repurposed.
Yeah,
repurposed.
All right. So do we
I
want
think
to?
that we can,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to amend my motion to a different priority.
I don't even know if everybody wants to go change it to that priority.
Do
Two
we,
people, right?
do we want to change the priority from priority 2? Any motion to change the priority?
Who put it as a priority 2 initially?
I presume the staff. Based
So
on,
this would
based
be
on the
Scott?
request, based on the request.
No, I think when we
Yeah, I
created the
think-
document, a couple of them could be, what we thought the best one was, or it could be, we reused the same document you used last year, just so you would have a working document. So it could be typo, it could be, we thought that was the best number.
Presumably it's from the departments, based on the request, and then the staff, in terms of how this was crafted.
Okay.
I don't believe that they prioritize their recommendations to us.
No.
It's working with the staff here and talking amongst ourselves, we should assign the priority, so.
But through the narrative, right, that's how we're gonna glean what the priority is,
Yeah.
right, through the narrative, so.
Yeah,
And what's the practical impact of the different priorities at town meetings? So this is, the priority will show up on the warrant?
Each warrant has this language and the priorities for the
Okay.
townspeople to see, in effect, what's the urgency?
Okay.
Yeah, the committee's report will go into the town meeting book. And if town meeting members are following along in the book, they would see in that book that your advice was that this qualified under 3. You may vote unanimously to approve, to
Got it.
recommend the article, but that this is the result of the committee's deliberation and listening to the presentations that came before you.
I don't have a problem with passing this article. I just think the prioritization doesn't really fit in with how we prioritize, that's all.
Do we have a motion to change the priority?
I want to get this right. It's my first one. I may need
Take your
help.
time.
I propose to, for Article 22, I propose to, for the enclosed public trailer, I propose to change the priority from 2 to priority 4.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion on that change? Okay, a motion to approve Article 22, a DPW request for enclosed public health trailer, $95,000, a priority 4, funded from free cash with no additional tax impact. Do I? Excuse me. Can we, sorry. We have a recommendation to approve this?
Yeah, aye.
Motion, recommend, okay, okay,
All right.
unanimous, so change that to priority 4. Sorry. Okay, Article 23, request from DPW Highway for drainage and sidewalk improvement program, $300,000, a priority 4. Funds to repair and replace failing drainage and sidewalk infrastructure, funded from the overlay surplus. Do we hear, do we have a,
Give me a minute, Mr. Chairman, and I will, but I'm just trying to check where I can see it on here.
again, Article 23?
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 23 for drainage and sidewalk improvement for a cost of $300,000, listed as a priority 4. funded from the overlay surplus.
Okay, any second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Susan?
Now I'd like to know the difference between 2 and 4 for this one.
Okay, let's go back to the table. 4 are projects designed to modernize and upgrade existing town facilities.
And infrastructure?
And,
Oh, number 4, yeah, right.
yeah, that's on page 50.
Yeah.
That table on page 50. Is that clearer?
So priority 2 is projects needed to maintain town's current buildings, equipment, and infrastructure. Isn't this an improvement? Is it really?
I think because he's listed as an improvement project, I would say it's modernization. That's
Okay.
that's
All right.
my take on it. That's
All right.
the only
Just-
take I have.
I want to understand what we're using the verbiage so that we're consistent each time we apply it.
Right, don't want to be splitting
I agree
hairs.
with you. That's very important.
Don't want to be splitting hairs.
Yeah, I agree with you. No, I agree with you.
So are we comfortable with it as a 4?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And can I make one comment?
Jason?
Sorry, through the chair. I would just add the comment that there's no additional tax impact with using overlay surplus as well. So if the committee's okay with that, I would add that language as well to these articles.
So on Article 23. Do we have a recommendation to approve this?
Yes.
Motion?
John?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, unanimous, thank you. Okay, Article 24, the DPW and Highway Department are requesting $330,000 for a bucket truck to replace a 2010 model, 30,000-pound gross vehicle weight bucket truck that's used by the Highway and Tree Divisions, part of the capital item, the existing vehicle chassis will be repurposed to extend its useful life. Funded from free cash, no additional tax impact, a priority 2. Do we have a motion on this article?
I move we accept Article 24 as
Yeah.
written with the amendment that it has a useful life of 10 to 12 years.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, any seconds?
Oh, I think, okay.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
So we're voting on Article 24 for $330,000, priority 2,
Yes,
for a bucket truck.
yes.
That has a 10-year useful life.
10 to 12.
We'll modify that bullet point to add that, okay? Recommendations? Unanimous, okay? Article 25, sidewalk plow replacement. The DPW Highway Department requesting $300,000 to purchase a sidewalk plow to replace a 2012 model with various attachments that's used by the Highway Department. As part of the capital item, the existing equipment will be traded in, funded from the overlay surplus, and is listed as a priority 2. Do we have a motion on Article 25?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 25 to replace a sidewalk plow for $300,000, listed as a priority 2.
Any discussion?
Funded from the overlay surplus? Right?
Correct, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Question?
I would like to add to this that it has a useful life of 10 years. I kind of like, when we're having capital projects,
Yeah.
putting those kinds of things in so people understand some of the benchmarks we use to determine things.
Okay, good. Further discussion?
So I move we amend it to useful life of 10 years.
10 years, okay. So noted.
And again, the same comment about overlay surplus as well, that I mentioned
right.
earlier.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's
no tax impact related to overlay surplus.
Okay. Do we have a recommendation to approve this Article 25? Unanimous, okay. Article 26, the Highway Department is requesting $340,000 for a hook lift truck. Priority 2, purchase a new fleet vehicle, a hook lift truck to allow the department to utilize multiple bodies on a single chassis, funded from free cash with no additional impact. Do we have a motion on this article?
Mr. Chair, before we make a motion on the article, I'd like to talk to John here, or have John's input, because he asked the most questions on this. We talked about multiple bodies, but we don't have any bodies on site yet, and we didn't have a projection of when we were gonna get bodies. Is that,
That's what I heard, and I also heard that this will not replace any fleet vehicles that we have in the fleet. It's an add, so it's a priority 4, not a priority 2. This one, I mean, this is a big budget item to add a new truck to the fleet when it's not replacing any of the fleet vehicles that we currently have, was the conversation that Mr. Charpentier and I were having.
and there wasn't any proposed bodies to be put onto it, it was just getting a chassis.
Just getting a chassis.
Did he say he could use anything in the yard to put on it at this point in time?
I recall him saying that there were 2 or 3 bodies, unique body attachments that could go on this, and I'm looking through my notes here. I don't have my notes on any specifics, but he mentioned 2 or 3 bodies that could go on this truck, making it like a Swiss Army knife as
I recall that discussion about, there was all sorts of bodies
Yes.
that could go on.
Yes.
But I don't think we have any on site. There are other bodies you'd have to buy to be able to put onto this type of chassis. It's a very flexible, probably has, it's like a Swiss Army knife. You could do all sorts of things with it.
But I can't
But I
see
don't
him
know if
buying
we
a
have all the
truck without
attachments.
without at least one attachment.
Yeah.
Do we need further clarification on that?
Jason, do
We,
you?
we can, I don't recall the answer to this. I thought there was additional bodies that were included, and that was why the price of this was $340 and not a lower cost just for the chassis, but, I don't have his presentation in front of me right now, so I can try to clarify that for you if you,
Yeah, I
in the
think we
meantime,
need, we need
if we want to,
clarification on this.
if we want to come back to this one,
Could,
I can.
are we, I know I'm jumping ahead, but are we still meeting Thursday? This Thursday?
Depends on what we get done tonight.
If we're gonna meet at a future date,
Well, I thought we would, based on this discussion, agree and set a date. So
Okay.
I have it for other business, but
maybe Tim knows. Tim wasn't in the room when we had the discussion. So part of the discussion is about the hook lift
Yep.
body, the chassis. Are there any bodies being planned, purchased with that? I know it's flexible, we can use a number of different bodies, but I don't believe we have any on site yet. And I don't know if there was any plan to be purchased with this type of vehicle.
Yeah, so I'm reading a text message, and it sounds like there is a spreader, a dump truck body, and a materials container, and that matches my recollection of the discussion. I believe there were bodies that were included.
right, I
with the-
thought it was like
in the cost.
3.
In the minutes, it says Scott Carpentier detailed the inclusion of a standard dump, a flatbed, and a material, in parentheses, mulch body for the hook lift, highlighting its role in enhancing the fleet flexibility and efficiency.
That was my recollection.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's the hook lift and 3 attachments, 3
Three
bodies.
attachments.
Okay.
But I still see it as a 4, as you say, because it's modernizing the fleet.
Yeah, I think it's a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve Article 26, the purchase of a hook lift truck for the DPW at a cost of $340,000, listed as a priority 4.
Okay,
Second.
okay, second. Further discussion? I'd like to see the language expanded to mention that there's 3 additional bodies that are going to go with it.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I think,
Small point, but yeah.
I'm still reluctant to vote for it. And the reason being, I have more conviction on this than I did on the $95,000 extra trailer, is to think about our responsibility that we have to Northborough and affordability, and really scrutinizing some of the things that we would like to do that maybe we don't need to do. And I think we've got a robust fleet. We've prioritized that as a community, and I'm proud of the fleet. I think people always comment on the quality of our fleet that we have here in Northborough and how we've always kind of rallied around that as a community. I think the timing of this to do in fiscal year 2025, I'm reluctant to vote for it.
I can understand why you would feel that way.
All right, further discussion? Can we have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, 4-2. Okay?
At least everything's not unanimous.
No, it doesn't have to
This
be.
is democracy, right? Yep.
It's not going to be unanimous at town meeting.
No, it shouldn't be.
And I think you bring up a valid point.
I think it's a good signal when there is a little bit of dissent to have people maybe just look into it and test themselves up.
Yes,
Yeah.
think a little more.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, Article 20.
In the meantime, I'll make sure that the narrative is correct about the 3 bodies and being
I've
added.
made some notes to double check with you, sure,
And they're in the minutes.
that too. Article 27, DPW Water Department requesting $140,000 for a 1-ton utility truck with a plow replacement. Priority 2, purchase a utility body truck to replace a 2014 model 1-ton utility body truck that's used by water and sewer divisions. As part of the capital item, the existing vehicle will be transferred to the Northborough Southborough Regional School District, funded from the water enterprise funds with no additional tax impact. Do I hear a motion on Article 27?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 27 to purchase a 1-ton utility truck with a plow as a replacement at a cost of $140,000, listed as a priority 2, funding source from the Water Enterprise Fund at no additional cost.
Second.
Okay?
Should we have it, I know we have it noted here in the notes, it's, the truck is gonna be transferred to the school department?
Can I, through the chair, I would just update the accuracy of the funding sources. It's going to be funded from water and sewer enterprise funds, because they split the cost of these vehicles. They're used by both. The divisions are the same people, so it's 60-40 split between water and sewer. And there's a technical nature of us taking a $20,000 payment from the regional school district. So in order to account for that'll go through the water fund. So the motion in the town meeting book will reflect that. So I'll just reflect this commentary to flesh that out so that it's
Okay.
accurate.
Okay. 27.
So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that when I said the funding source to be the water enterprise will be the sewer and water enterprise funds.
Okay? Any second?
Can you add to that the 60-40 split so people understand where it's coming from? It's 60 for
Yeah.
water and 40 for sewer? That's what I had in my notes, no?
Correct, 60-40 of the 120 originally proposed, and then the $20,000 trade-in value, we're going to sell it to the regional school district for $20,000. So they're a separate legal entity, so those have to flow into the enterprise fund, and we'll have to budget for those monies coming in.
So we have 2 enterprise funds, and we got money being transferred from the school department funding this.
Correct, there's a receipt coming from the school department to fund this, to make it all whole. Yeah, but I'll update the paragraph to reflect that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? There a motion to approve this Article 27? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Okay. Moving on, Article 28, DPW and Sewer Department are requesting $380,000 for inflow and infiltration mitigation. It's a priority 2. Request for funds to remove non-sanitary flows from the sewer systems mandated by the Mass DEP under 314 CMR 12-04. The town has a comprehensive 15-year infiltration elimination plan. This is the 3rd year of implementation. For each gallon of storm and groundwater that's removed from the sewer system, there's 1 less gallon that must be treated and 1 more gallon of capacity available for future use. This is to be funded by the sewer enterprise funds with no additional tax impacts. Costs for the project are part of the existing fee structure.
Priority 1.
Do I hear a motion on Article 28?
I move that we approve Article 28, inflow and infiltration mitigation for $380,000.
Okay,
I would like to, in my motion, put it as a priority 1.
okay.
Yeah.
So.
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion?
I put it in priority 1 because it's actually a state mandate.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point, thank you. All right, recommendation to approve. Can we have a motion to Article 28? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. That's unanimous, okay. Article 29. The Northborough School Committee is requesting $30,000 as a priority 2 for a Peasley Elementary asbestos encapsulation for the chimney. Funds needed for the encapsulation of the chimney ductwork at Peasley School, funded for free cash with no additional tax impact. Do we have a motion on Article 29?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve Article 29 to encapsulate a chimney at the Pease School for a cost of $30,000. And I'm not sure if it should be priority 1 or priority 2, to tell you the truth.
Thank you. I think if we go for the reason why we did the, well, you need a second on your motion.
It's going to be a
Discussion.
priority 1. My motion will be priority 1.
Okay, I concur with that. All right.
Second? Did anybody second you?
Anybody second?
Oh, number second.
Second. Okay. Discussion, further discussion?
I just see a consistency in this. If we worried about safety and health issues for the fire station, this is the same issue at
Agreed.
the school.
Agreed.
It's a health
Yep.
issue.
Yeah,
Absolutely a
yeah.
health
Yep,
issue.
agreed. Good point. Okay, do we have a motion to approve Article 29 modified with a priority 1, to a priority 1? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? It's unanimous. Okay, Article 30. The Northborough School Committee is requesting $30,000 for the Melican Middle School hot water system upgrade at priority 2. Funds are needed to upgrade the hot water system at the Melican School, funded from free cash with no additional tax impact. Do we have a motion on Article 30?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Article 30 for the Mellon School to replace their hot water heating system for $30,000, listed as a priority 2.
Second.
Okay, this is an upgrade, not a replacement per se, 30,
Okay.
just the way that language is stated here. We have a motion, seconded.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to amend my motion, to make it a priority 4 then, based on your statement. Right, because we're modernizing, right, or upgrading the existing. Right?
Yep. Replacement provides the ability to control the temperature of hot water to all Melican School fixtures.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I think it's fair to be a 4.
4, okay? Motion to change that to priority 4. Any second to that?
Second?
Okay? Discussion.
Could I just add one thing? This isn't being funded from free cash. This is being a transfer from an existing article. This is being a transfer from the 2011 Green Schools repair article.
Oh, yeah, I did, funding free cash / green pair repair.
There would be no
repair
tax
funds.
impact as a result of
Yeah,
that, but
okay.
it's existing funds.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll add that verbiage in there.
This one and the next article.
Okay.
Both are being funded from that green repair article.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Article 31, changing the priority to priority 4 and language that reflects no tax impact and the transfer from the 2011 Green School?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve Article 31, the Mellon Middle School to repair the pneumatic controls system for a cost of $72,000, listing it as a priority 4.
Okay. Any further discussion?
And the money will be transferred from an existing article, correct?
Correct, yeah. The 30 and 31 are both being funded from the same source.
I think we're blending the two
And
together
yeah,
in the discussion.
I didn't mean to confuse the discussion, but I don't think we conclusively voted on Article 30.
No?
We're still on 30.
Are we?
Yes.
Hey, do
I
we
want to
have,
go home.
do we have a motion to approve Article 30? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Article 30 is unanimous. Article 31. Again, with changing the priority to priority 4 and language that there's no tax impact and a transfer from the 2011 Green School. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 31?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make it again. Article 31, I make a motion to approve Article 31, the Mellon Middle School to repair the pneumatic control system for a cost of $72,000, listed as a priority 4.
Okay.
And transfer from existing articles.
I think she's gonna get it.
Second
Through the chair,
question?
for Melican, I think it's a priority too, right? It's repair?
Yes, I do too,
just to
because
make
it's an
sure.
upgrade. It's an upgrade, and then somehow modernization got in there as part of the verbiage in their presentation, but it's an upgrade of existing system.
Okay, this is the pneumatic controls is not a repair, it's an upgrade,
It's a repair, yeah.
which would be, I think, would be 2.
Two, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I think I heard 4, but.
I said 4, but
okay.
I thought we were putting a new system.
Okay, good. No, just we're clear. Thanks.
So do you want to amend your motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend it to priority 2.
Okay, so noted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Article 32, the Northborough School Committee is requesting $900,000 for a feasibility study for the Marguerite Peasley Elementary School. A priority 2, funds are needed to repair the,
This is wrong.
hang on,
Yeah, that'll be updated.
hang on.
If it only was a repair of cement.
Yeah, that's a lot for cement. So
It's correct in,
the text that's here in the landscape document is way off.
and just a reminder for the group on, it's in here better described, Article 32, and this also speaks to the potential for grant money, but not taking it as grant money, because we don't know. But it has the description of what the $900,000 is for in our article description pack.
We have a motion to modify the language, the dot points in Article 32 to more reflect the feasibility study for the Peasley School and why we're doing it.
Yes, I'll move Article 32, the feasibility study for the Peasley School at $800,000.
900?
900, okay, I had 800 right in my typing, okay, 900,000.
Okay.
Anybody?
Anybody second? Okay. Further discussion?
Yes. What are we going to write there? This is a very important article because it's going to come up at the same time that there's discussion about a pending fire station.
And it's a large line item.
It is, and it's going to scare people about when is this coming, and so what should we put in there to justify this in this table here?
In the second handout that we gave, this
There's
language here,
considerable language.
we can narrow down, take the bullets out of here and place it here. Again, reminding people it's a 2/3 vote and that it's a 51% reimbursement, so it really won't be borrowing 900, it'll be more like 450. But we're in the queue for the MSBA now, for the reimbursement part of the grant. So we wouldn't borrow the whole amount, but we'd be authorized to, because that's what MSBA requires.
I would love to have a better explanation as they would say it. I would love to see something that says something like this, like Peasley Elementary School has been accepted into the MSBA building projects process and has been asked to seek funding for a feasibility study. It's part of a process. They're not coming because want to spend money. They've been asked as they step through in this process that they get that funding for it. And they're still in a process. We don't even know if they will be accepted at that point, but that's
Yep,
what this is
but you
all
have to be
about.
authorized, you're right.
And the state reimburses for approximately 50%. I've heard 50, 51, 52. I don't know what the number is these days. In the building project, estimated cost is currently in the CIP for 2030 is,
Yeah, I think it's.
I think it's important to state that so
Yeah.
that people don't start to get flustered. And we just be very particular about this because we'd like to see both projects.
Yeah, this is a feasibility study. You're not getting a new school for $900,000.
Through the chair, and Tim, also, I think you had mentioned during this presentation that the funding from the state, it used to be always reimbursed at the completion of the project, and it's no longer done that way. It's done
Yeah, it's as you go.
as you go, which is a huge benefit, right, to the community.
Okay, do we have a motion to modify the description under Article 32 for the feasibility study for the Peasley Elementary School?
Could you send us your language, Susan, please?
I'd be happy to.
And if the committee's okay with that, we'll just insert her language.
Okay.
So we're looking for a second?
Do
All
we
in
have,
favor?
do we have a second to modify that language and Susan providing some input?
I've seconded it. I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, do we have a vote to approve Article 32 as amended, $900,000 for a feasibility study for the Marguerite Peasley School for priority 2? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Good, okay. Moving along. Community Preservation Act projects. Article 39 on page 55. The acquisition of 432 Whitney Street, the Community Preservation Commission is seeking $817,653. This does not have a priority. Funds are requested for the purpose of acquiring the 23.7 plus acres of land at there's a typo here, 432 Whitney Street, for open space and passive recreation purposes and development of up to 8 affordable low-income dwelling units.
Can I make one comment? It says 817,653, that's the amount coming from the CPA unreserved fund, I believe. The purchase price would be 1.7 million, and I think we'll update the accurate funding sources in this article.
Yeah,
I think
we
those
should
the
list them out.
For your
Yeah,
report, it's
'cause this is-
1.7 million total,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
This is a big
this is
ask.
just one piece of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also saw in your reports last year that you didn't do priorities for this, for CPA, so I figure we're not going to prioritize tonight, right?
That,
Yeah,
That's
the narrative ahead of this talks about no prioritization for CPA projects. This is vetted by that committee and then to
Okay.
you and then ultimately to town meeting.
I didn't get a chance to read that verbiage, but
There's a lot here. Mr. Chair, if I could just mention that we did, TCR did agree verbally, and we're waiting on grant funding for a partial payment for the purchase of this property. We're gonna fund it for the full amount, but 200,000 should come back from the state of Massachusetts to help offset that 1.7.
Okay.
We wanna do it as one, and then we'll get reimbursed, and we'll give CPA back that
The 200,
200,000.
okay, good, all right. Do we have a motion
Through
to,
the chair, and just, I believe the net effect of this decisions on this piece of paper would leave the reserves at roughly $200,000. Would that impact that and leave the reserves at roughly $400,000?
That would increase it by that amount.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
do we have a motion regarding Article 39, the acquisition of 432 Whitney Street for $817,653?
I move that we approve Article 39, the acquisition of 432 Whitney Street.
Jason, is it
Second.
good being that number, or should it be 1.7?
What's that? I'm sorry.
What
Should it be
number do you
1.7?
want?
I'm sorry.
It should be 1.7 in like we can mention the state grant, but until that's.
No, I know, no, I'm not gonna do the, I just wanna know if this is gonna become their report. I wanna know if
So
that
you
should
want
be 817 or 1.7 million.
Yeah, it should be 1.7 million.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, and the cost of 1.7 million.
Sorry, I don't know how that number, I.
There's another typo in there also, so
Yeah,
we'll have to
so
fix it.
my limit's 3, so if you find one more,
It's okay. All right, so
Crap.
a revised motion to approve Article 39, the acquisition of 432 Whitney Street for $1,700,000. And the funding, and language relative to the funding sources will have to be amended to this as currently stated. Do I hear a motion on this?
To accept?
Yes. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, 4-2. Okay. Article 40.
Is it, the chair, is it worthwhile just to, I'd love to, I mean, I just form my own opinion, but I'm by no means, it's a firmly staked position. I mean, if there's
No.
things I'm not thinking about, so if either of you are comfortable sharing, it would be, for me, it would be helpful.
For my personal belief, I think from based what the town planner said, that we have limited industrial property left. Our build-out is almost there. I'm concerned about the residential tax base. Any way we can alleviate that is, one of the ways we can do that is having more industrial property or reduce our spending, right? So if we're not reducing our spending, right? So passing some of that burden on into industrial, I think for me is a more appropriate way to do it.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Any further comment, Rob? No? I was sitting on a presentation from the planning director on this project a few weeks back, and question was asked, what's the tax impact to the town of this being built out as a commercial facility? And it would be between 80 and 120,000 per annum, plus construction jobs and people working there. So the economic benefits from that are taken away by making this open space. Okay? So approved 4-2. Article 40, the Northborough Rec Department is requesting $54,000 to soundproof the outdoor pickleball courts at Ellsworth McAfee Park. They're requesting funding for the construction phase of this project, which covers a minimum 10% allocation required for open space and recreation. I have a motion on Article 40.
I'm not sure that the description's accurate
Description
down there,
does-
but-
There's a match.
But but we can update that.
Okay,
What's wrong with the description?
That
10% allocated to
talks
open
about
space.
allocation.
it's part of that sentence, it doesn't make sense.
I think they just maybe took from last year, from whatever year they did the pickleball court.
Through the chair, I make a motion to approve Article 40 for soundproofing of the outdoor pickle courts at McAfee Park for $54,000 with verbiage to be amended as needed.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Okay, any second? Any second to
I'll
that?
second.
Okay, discussion.
How many people does this account for, benefit the pickleball courts?
Pickleball courts at
Wait.
Ellsworth?
it's used all the time. Every time I'm there, the place is packed.
I've driven by it multiple
And
times,
the
and it's
neighbors on the
always,
other side of the street are
Yeah.
just annoyed by that clicking sound, and we enjoy it every day here, especially down Jason's end of the hall when they play in the gym, so
So
it is
that's
quite
for-
annoying.
That's for here too? For the
No,
just
I'm
for
just saying
Ellsworth.
that they
At the
play
park.
here,
Just for
but the
Ellsworth.
soundproofing is only for Ellsworth.
I mean, I felt personally that we placed the courts that are used all the time, not actually realizing what kind of sound problems there would be for neighbors. I feel this is, for me, it's a goodwill vote to help them mitigate what's happening to them with this new recreation.
and again, it appears it gets a lot of play. Yeah. So, do we have a motion to approve Article 40 soundproofing of the pickleball courts at Ellsworth McAfee Park for $54,000.
Yes, we do. I made one, I believe.
Second, any seconds?
I think I did in second. Yep.
Okay, okay. Do we have a motion to approve this? Show of hands. 5-1, okay. All right. Any further comments, Rob? No, okay. Article 41, Affordable Housing Reserve. CPC is requesting $126,856. Purpose of creation of affordable housing. This verbiage needs some work.
Yep.
Do we have a motion about Article 41?
Chair, I make a motion, we approve Article 41, Affordable Housing Reserve, the fund, the amount of $126,856 to be installed in that account.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I have a question. I don't really know what Affordable Housing Reserve is, what it's used for.
Well, I would just add that the Affordable Housing Reserve is just it's a reserve within the CPA fund. By adopting the CPA, we're required to spend 10% on three core purposes: affordable housing, open space, and
Historic preservation.
historic preservation. You got it, thanks, Tim. But so if we're not spending it on an affordable housing project, we either need to spend it or reserve it. So this, the reserve sits within the CPA fund.
To be
for
used
future use
later.
Town
Okay.
meeting would be required to appropriate from the reserve. And I was just looking back at my notes. I have the memo from last week from the CPC. And to go back to the 432 Whitney Street, 817,653 was just like the CPA's version of free cash. It's their unreserved fund. 664,073 is to come from the conservation fund. And that's CPA funds that have been dedicated, kind of like this as a reserve, but transferred to the conservation fund for open space acquisitions. And then new revenues was 218,274 from the CPA fund for going back to the 1.7 million. But to answer your question in a long drawn out way, it's just money that's sitting within a reserve for a specific purpose to be used later
Got it.
But there is no specific purpose.
for affordable
Affordable
housing.
housing.
Someday.
Yes.
Yes, in the future, yes.
And through the chair, one of the things that, as I was thinking about this one, if we do the acquisition of 432 Whitney Street for $1.7 million and we allocate, I heard roughly 3 acres to Habitat for Humanity, that in itself is, the economic value of that, is that contemplated in sort of our reserve requirements? I mean, as I think about that economic value,
Oh, you mean in terms of like meeting the 10% requirements?
yeah.
I know we've done a tabulation of the 10% and we've met the 10%. I'm not sure which articles get us there.
Through the chair.
We're meeting the requirements.
With the planner was here, she said we already had met our 10%. We were like a 10.8 housing, so the state requires you to have 10%. Otherwise, the 40B projects can come in. Can I
I was thinking of 10% of the.
Ken, I don't. I
These
don't mean to-
reserves, you're talking about two different things.
Okay.
So through the chair, so the reserves, now I'm confused. Can you ask me that question again?
So as I think about the reserves, and the acquisition of 432 Whitney Street, it's $1.7 million acquisition value. 3 acres of that is contemplated to go to Habitat for Humanity. So rough math, 15% of $1.7 million is roughly 200, call it 250 grand for simple math. Does that satisfy the 10% reserve that we're talking about in the context of the Community Preservation Committee?
I'm sorry to jump in. I don't think that the 432 Whitney Street is counting toward the 10%. I think they're planning on the 10% coming from this article.
Would it count if it passed?
Well, you'd need to know what percentage was affordable housing from that acquisition. I think, in order to count it. But
I
We're
heard,
still talking about money, right? Not housing units.
yes, I'm talking about, don't, yeah, forget the housing units, throw them
Yeah,
away.
you're talking about money.
Yeah, no, but we are talking about housing units in the sense that if we do move forward with 432, and you need at least 1.7 acres to do that, is my clear understanding from the conversation. I heard roughly 3, but it's clearly 1.7. 10% of 1.7 million is 170 grand. Does that 170 grand satisfy the reserve conversation we're having in the context of deciding do the affordable housing reserve or not?
I think it would be likely to be met either way.
Okay.
You'd either meet it through this article or through the other article.
Okay.
So
Either source could be used, the source that they're laid out here in the article, in the book, or this, they're interchangeable.
Okay, yeah, and,
Right, so I think.
I've got some insight too from the Community Preservation Committee, the meeting where they discussed that. They did bring up that scenario, is whether the acquisition, should they fund it, partially from the affordable housing reserves, because the intent long-term, they went back and forth on that, and then decided, since there wasn't a specific project on deck, they wanted to hold the reserves for affordable housing until a specific project was identified. So it might go to Habitat for Humanity, it might be some other development.
Right.
So they didn't want to commit the affordable housing reserves during the acquisition of the property. They wanted to wait until that actual project came about, and then potentially fund it with affordable housing.
John, I recall the conversation surrounded, they wanted the flexibility for somewhere in the future. To
yeah,
what Scott
yeah,
said.
the one thing I wasn't squaring was just no identified projects and the reserve and trying to do that that was the one thing that wasn't clear to me. And then the intention of having the Community Preservation Committee and the amount we're allocating toward those initiatives versus other things we could do or build our reserves up.
And can I just add that the 10% requirement, there's $820,000 of revenue budgeted. The 10% would be based on the $820,000, so it's $82,000 has to be spent on each of the core purposes, so.
Thank you.
Either through one article or the other.
And we did ask Lori specifically, as she was listing all the potential uses for this property, she did say, like, nothing's been committed at this point. We're just really looking to purchase, and then everything else is, to your point, TBD at this point.
Yeah, there's nothing on the specific horizon, right?
And can I make one other additional
please.
point? I don't believe this is for a reserve. I think this is an appropriation for an article to allocate to the Housing Corporation. So this would be an article and not a transfer to the reserve. So I think that's
So what's the 126 for? I'm still not clear.
it would be for future affordable housing projects that would be conducted by the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation, which is a separate entity from the town. So the money would be set aside in an article rather than being in the reserve. So the key difference is that once town meeting votes to allocate an article for the Affordable Housing Corporation, it would be incumbent on the Affordable Housing Corporation to enter into a funding agreement with the Select Board and the CPC outside of town meeting. Affordable Housing Reserve within the CPA would require town meeting action again in the future.
Through the chair?
Please.
Do we have visibility or insight into the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation in terms of how much reserves that organization has, and if we've done this from my perspective, if in a simple world, if we gave them 126 every year, not that we have, they'd have a balance that we contributed to through the CPC fund. Do we have an understanding of how much how much balance they have?
Yeah, so to answer that question, we have not transferred any money to them outside of a funding agreement, and it's always, the way that the funding agreements have worked, there's basically a contract between the town and the Affordable Housing Corporation that's entered into for each article that the town has approved. Every project that they've undertaken has been a reimbursement basis, so we are not transferring money to the Affordable Housing Corporation that's not meant as a reimbursement for an actual expense. So to answer your question, I don't believe there's any reserves from the town sitting in the Affordable Housing Corporation's bank account. so to speak.
Because it's project-based, so if they're gonna build and they spend money out of their, whatever their, because they're a private nonprofit. So they have dollars, and as they spend to build that house, they seek reimbursement under that funding agreement. So there wouldn't be a balance that they would carry for us. They might have a balance as a 501c3, but they wouldn't be dollars from the community.
This is helpful. So from a CPC perspective, when we talk reserves, obviously this would not be in our CPC reserve number because we'd be overstating it. It's not 200, because we'd be allocating $126,000 to the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation. Is that right?
Correct.
Maybe we should, it's 10% minimum, right? For all these areas, the minimum investment in those areas is 10%.
Yep, understood.
So you can be more.
Yeah, so-
And so that's why the projects can be higher than that 10%.
Yeah, I think it's, I can take this offline too. I think what I'm trying to understand, just, is there an account that we put money into that doesn't show up in our reserves, but is meant for reimbursement to meet one of these things that has a balance in it at this time? We're adding to that balance that we're setting aside, so we don't have in our CPC reserves? Or is it just going against the reserves up to $126,000?
Okay, so can I answer this?
Please.
Per the memo from the CPC, it's just a typo calling it a reserve. And
Okay.
I'm comparing it to the actual. There will be an article set aside allocating this money to the Affordable Housing Corporation. We've met the requirements of the affordable housing 10% by allocating this money to an article. The article will not involve any movement of money until we enter into a funding agreement with when I say we, I mean the select board and the CPC enters into a formal funding agreement with the Affordable Housing Corporation. So as it stands, there's currently the existent articles for affordable housing, future affordable housing with the Affordable Housing Corporation that have not been exercised yet. So this is just meeting the requirement, the 10% requirement. And again, to Tim's point, it can be more than $82,000, but this would not involve actually, we've met the requirement by allocating the money to an article, we've in effect spent it by putting it in an article, but there would be no cash moving to the corporation until a formal agreement's been reached.
Okay.
Is this the memo you're talking about?
Yes.
Where they don't actually say reserve in it?
Yeah, it doesn't say reserve
Yeah.
because it would be an article.
And they do state there that they, based on prospects for several additional projects in the near term.
So we need to do this to help with the 10% minimum each year? There's been a lot of talk, I still don't quite understand it, but
10% of the,
some
Of
future.
housing?
Some future project?
it could be, but there
10%
could
of
be
the CPA
other.
revenues have to be either spent or reserved for each of the core purposes. So this meets that requirement by being it's a spending article, but
You got nothing.
there's caveats attached to this, before the spending that actually happens.
Got it.
Okay?
And did they need to use it within the fiscal year?
That's a requirement of the CPC. So they need to renew that annually with the CPC.
Okay, so when I see an unreserved fund balance of $243,061 as an ending balance, that would assume that they spend the whole $126,000 gets
The,
spent and they get reimbursed.
which reserve are you looking at?
It's at the back of the March 11th, 2024.
Oh, that's the unreserved, I'm sorry.
That's unreserved?
Yeah, that's the CPA's version of free cash. That's what's unallocated to any specific purpose except
Okay.
for CPA purposes in general. So they're two different amounts.
All right, any further questions on this Article 41? Jason, is the sponsor of this the CPC?
Yes.
Okay, and the same thing with 42? The sponsor name is blank on both of those.
Yeah, all the rest of these are, and just to add to the confusion, when we created this, I've been talking to folks about parking, public parking in the downtown area. So that's Article 39 in the warrant, which moved everything else down. So these numbers are off by one.
Right.
But that's why you kind of hedged when you had the ability to have the chair work with Jason to get the verbiage
it.
and the numbers.
Got it,
right.
okay. We'll come back to that at the very end. Good. All right. Whew. Well, do we have a motion on Article 41?
Am I hearing that these article numbers are not correct, like we shouldn't be stating them in our motions from here down?
I know where they are. We're off by one. So 40, your 40 is really 41.
But based on the paper in front of us,
That's
Based
correct.
I would
Right.
list the paper in front of
Yes,
us.
that's what we are talking about.
Right, because I think it's only going to make it more confusing if,
Okay.
if we
Or
bring
we
in
just
another one.
don't say the number?
I think you have to reference
We've
the number.
only got a couple left. Do I have a motion on Article 41 to recommend the Affordable Housing Reserve of $126,856 for the CPC?
I make a motion, we approve that with the caveat that we work really diligently to get the description of how the money is being allocated much better than what we just did.
Agreed. Any second?
Second.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve? All those in favor? 4-2. Okay, 2/3 vote. Article 42, restoration of the First Parish Church steeple, $210,000 being requested by the CPC, I presume, for the First Parish Northborough Unitarian Universalist Church for the structural restoration of the steeple. Do I have a motion on Article 42?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve Article 42 for the restoration of the First Parish Church steeple of a cost of $210,000, and the funding source shall be CPC Historical Funds.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm not in favor of this article. The amount of money being spent from public funds on a private property, based on what the planner told us at her presentation, the parish is coming up with roughly $20,000. I think the ratio is really off, and I can't support it for that reason.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion?
I think it was raised at the last meeting that there was some concern about legal issues in regard to it, especially since it appears that the contractor is going to be hired through the people doing the steeple work, not at the church, not us.
Right.
So I think you voiced some concern for that, and we had
Well, I
asked
think
if
there's
it was.
concerns about having restrictions, historical restrictions on the property, which I think was brought up. And I just thought of something else, and maybe Tim can answer this. Since the majority of the money will be public funded, do they have to be prevailing wage?
Yeah, it's a good question I have to talk to Stuart. I don't know the answer to that.
Because that could blow your estimates
Yeah.
way out of.
My understanding is that the projects that have been undertaken in the past have not been prevailing wage, that we're allocating a grant, not funding the work per se. So to that point, from my understanding, the work in the Historical Society that's been funded from the CPA, and the other church work has not been subject to prevailing wage.
I'll find out.
I would suggest that Tim confirm that. We don't want to have a problem with that afterwards, after the fact.
Okay, given that, do we have
You have a
a
motion?
recommendation? Was there a motion to approve Article 42 for $210,000 for the restoration of the First Parish Church steeple? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Unanimously, no. Article 43, the Northborough Historic District Commission is requesting $4,729 for the Aqueduct Historical Marker. Funds are requested for the purchase and installation of historical marker of the Aqueduct Bridge. Do we have a motion for Article 43?
Mr. Chair, I have a point of order here. Based on I got some clarification about our authority and roles and that type of stuff, that, those things we're supposed to be doing. And it says, we're supposed to start our discussion with a request of $25,000 or more. This is less than 5. I agree with we should do it, but I don't know really our input is necessary for it.
Okay, good point.
Since they're all CPA, we just, we didn't look at the number. We
I'm
looked-
just-
We looked at the fact that they were lumped from CPA, don't compete with capital improvement. We put them all before you. If you, vote to take no action, the committee might, the community might ask at town meeting, what did financial planning think about this? And you can tell them it was under the threshold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion on Article 43?
I move we take no action on Article 43 since it does not meet the criteria for a capital plan,
Okay,
capital project.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Is that the last one?
No, couple
two more. Article 44, the White Cliffs bond payment, the Community Preservation Commission is requesting $164,641 for the 7th of the 10 payments required for the bond of the White Cliffs purchase. Do I hear a motion on Article 44?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve or recommend the White Cliff bond payment for $164,641.
Can I make one
Second.
comment? The total amount's $176,000. There's an amount coming from a premium fund to make up the difference between the two. 164 is this amount coming from CPA revenues, but
So is the article going to state 176 or 176?
Correct, yes.
176.
176?
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I make I wish to amend my motion to the dollar amount of $176,000.
Okay, any seconds?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? A motion to approve. All those in favor? 5 to 1? Okay. Any further comment? Okay. Last one, Article 45, the administrative fund, $41,000, funds being requested for the purpose of the creation of this is,
That's not right either.
it's not right either.
Oh, yeah, that's not correct.
Yeah.
I apologize.
What's it for?
Community Preservation Fund revenues at Northborough Community Preservation for expenses associated with the implementation of the Community Preservation Act, included but not limited to clerical assistance, office supplies, property surveys, appraisals, attorney's fees, and other professional services, recording fees, printing, and all other necessary and proper expenses for fiscal year 2025.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve Article 45, the fund CPC administration funds for a cost of $41,000, and the wording of the recommendation shall be worked on by the chair.
Okay, second, anybody?
Second.
Okay. Recommendation to approve. All those in favor? 5 to 1. Okay. So I presume, Jason, the next 2 pages in yellow are just a recap of this, of the warrant articles?
Which those may need to be edited as well, so I want to
When
apologize
this
to the committee
changes,
for
good.
those. The numeric issues we had.
We have to make some changes to this based on our discussion tonight and based on what you approved. Do I have a motion to permit the chair to work with the finance director and the staff to modify this and produce a subsequent draft?
You need a second for that? You want a motion?
Make a motion.
I make a motion that the chair work with the financial director to correct any discrepancies in the the Financial Planning Committee's report.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, okay. Jason, when do we think we can get this back to the committee, realistically?
So when's our next meeting scheduled?
Well, that's what I was going to ask next. We don't have one scheduled. What's on the horizon is the Select Board and Appropriations budget hearing next Monday. We don't have one scheduled, and then the question is, backing into it, when do we need to have it done by?
Well, it needs to be done in time to be printed in the town meeting warrant booklet. It doesn't have to be in time for the budget hearing on Monday, but if Monday's convenient for people, we can clearly have or definitely have a draft by then.
So,
I think we're gonna work on this tomorrow too. For the time you've spent,
Yeah.
we gotta get this done tomorrow.
I understand.
And you
All right.
can have time to make sure we're right.
Conceptually, we understand it. We've talked about it. It's recorded. It's, you know,
right.
we
So-
voted on what we think it's supposed to be.
We just need time to review it to make sure there's no
I understand.
Yeah.
typos or
I will be
whatever,
available
right?
as a priority to work with you to get this
All right,
done.
well,
Procedurally, we want to send it back to the committee through Tim or yourself?
yeah, I mean, I'm happy to,
Yeah, we'll
update
work on
this.
it. We'll start the draft from what we can take away tonight.
Right.
Send it to you, make sure you're the test for the rest of the group, and then you can send it out to them if you think we got it right, and
So
then you
if,
can have a meeting
if,
to ratify.
if we believe it's right, I can send it to the group,
Yeah,
okay? Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
you should
May I
consider
ask-
these like meeting minutes. That's what the transmission will be.
We've approved you to go ahead and work, and we approved what I thought was probably just what we did on the articles. Are we gonna have no discussion about what we think of a committee overall?
My next item.
Okay, all right.
Under other business.
Okay.
We've hit this fast-moving treadmill because we're time boxed on when we start and when we have to get things done. Understanding that you're all new to the committee, I believe it's important and valuable to have a more somewhat leisurely discussion on the process and the role of the Financial Planning Committee. I think it makes sense to sit down with Tim and Jason to go through the tools that have been used to drive all this, things, the tools and procedures we've had for a number of years that drive this process in a less rushed fashion. And certainly coming up against town meeting, I probably want to do this after town meeting, realistically. Again, usually we start this process in roughly December and get things going at a less rushed pace to get to where we are. So I would suggest we think about potential dates to do that. April, May, I'm not sure at the rate we're going.
May's fine. I mean, just get through town meeting and,
Right.
you know, we can go back through and look at the long-range plan, the FTMS, and then the historic free cash availability and its use. I think that historic piece will be good. And then when I would recommend you start again for your process would be when we get free cash certified. So right when when we have 3.5 million or 2 million or whatever the number is, you can start to think about what are you doing in the year 26.
Right, right.
I mean, we're going to have to meet to prepare for the next town meeting, which is going to be this fall.
Yes.
So
And you'll hear
maybe if we
the
just start
fire
a little
station
bit
project.
sooner in the beginning of September or something, let you guys get over this whole budget season and relax a little bit and get geared for the special town meeting. We then sit down with everything that really drives the decisions for a capital improvement plan here in town. And then you will have had time to reflect from town meeting, the things that are said and what's going on. And maybe we will even come up with some recommendations that we think should or
Well,
should not
you know,
take place.
there's nothing to say we can't have more than one meeting. You know, I leave it up to the group relative to what you feel we should be doing. Clearly, I think, you know, a less rushed environment where we can understand this better and ask some questions is valuable. Clearly, coming into the special town meeting where the fire station project's going to be on there. We're going to want to dig into that to detail based on, you saw some of the stuff that the chief presented tonight. So I think each of those should have its own attention and its own value. So I think, whatever the group wants to do, we can certainly have more than one meeting, but I think it's important for you to get comfortable with the processes we have and then where are we going as a committee going forward relative to our charter.
I mean, I asked through the chair that you be sent the chapter 152 and chapter 932 of the municipal code, the code to you, to start to get an understanding of some of the structure around the committee, so you see when things are due to us and when our process ought to begin in the budget process. So I think that's important. I also am becoming very concerned, not in a bad way. I'm happy to see all the grant writing that's taking place and all the new ventures that people want to take on here in town. But we don't want to go to the townspeople with things that just drop in their laps at the last minute surprised. Like when people are starting to write grants, they probably should send memos to us in some way so that we get a heads up that there's a project in the queue, and if they get the funding on such and such a date, they could possibly be able to put forward a project into the capital improvement plan. So I'd like for us to think about that. What does that look like to us? Is it important to us? It's important to me, might not be important to the rest of you. So I think those kinds of things we should actually discuss.
Yeah, I think a grants horizon, because you've heard some of it from some of the department heads. Having been here several years, I've heard this from many of them, that they find and seek out grants when they are available. And most of the time, it's a reimbursement, so you gotta spend the money to be reimbursed. And there's a time when you get shut out, that you're gonna apply for a grant and you don't get it. But I think, having a dashboard on grants, where things are, would be a valuable tool for us as a planning tool.
We
I
have
agree.
lots of extra committees in town. We have a traffic committee that's now talking about $260,000 worth of crosswalk signs. I'm not disagreeing with it, but how are you funding it? Where's that money coming from? Is it gonna go to the selectmen as ARPA before ARPA runs out?
Yep.
And so I think, we're advisory in nature, so being able to be advisory is having good communication with everybody that's coming up with wanting to spend money, so that we
Right.
can figure out how it all fits together. So we do it in a way that the townspeople will find it supportive.
Right.
And the tax rate doesn't go nuts.
And I'm concerned that with, what's going on in Beacon Hill and with the feds, are certain funding sources going to dry up? Are things like ARPA going to be clawed back by the feds? And these are real concerns I have. And what's the impact to us?
Does that mean you wish that they would spend it sooner because you're afraid?
Well. you
Should
get-
we
you
put that
get-
in our
you get-
report?
you get
Something
shut out.
about a plan that should be done sooner than later?
My understanding that, they're gathering a number of projects on the horizon, but there's been nothing committed yet, and a report's going to be produced by the select board. But if we feel that, we have concerns of it, then maybe we should put it in a report somewhere.
Does anybody think that we should at least say something about it? No?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions, right, that have been raised tonight, and certainly many of us are new to the committee. It sounds like we want to get together in May and talk in more detail, and what I would think would be a decent process is for all of us to submit these topics in advance,
Yeah.
like the
Okay.
things that you're
Put
talking
an
about.
agenda together.
So not in a report,
Put
then
it-
we'll just talk
Put
about
an
it
agenda
later.
together of what we want to talk about, and then, we gather in a more productive environment.
Yeah.
Less rushed, less stressful environment, yeah.
And the meeting that we have with the select board that lists our committee as optional,
Yes, Monday, John, Monday, the 25th at 7 PM here. It's a select board meeting with the Appropriations Committee. It's a budget hearing, and our participation is optional. I will be at this meeting, so if you can join in, if you want to join in, please do.
I think it will be hybrid. We're trying to get where you can be here in person or but I can't speak for the board. We haven't decided yet which route it's gonna take, if it's in person or Zoom or hybrid.
Are you going to post
You're gonna
financial
post-
planning in case 5 of us show up?
I think we'll have a conversation with the chair whether,
Okay.
Okay. And then, what is the format of that meeting? Is there a back and forth? Is there questions asked? Like, I know we're on those options.
The next Monday meeting?
The one, yeah. I mean, Scott, from your experience, any insights onto how that meeting runs?
Let me let you all talk
We're
first.
gonna make a presentation on what fiscal '25 is gonna look like from both a revenue standpoint and then an expense standpoint, and try to make a presentation and tell people what these items will cost, break down percentages, break down dollar increases for all departments, including the school district, and then we'll take questions from the committees.
So it's basically structured as a public hearing, right? And so the updated budget numbers that appropriations has received, and you've gotten some of the budget updates here in this. So the real purpose is that public hearing for the public to see those budgets if they haven't, and prior to town meeting, ask questions on all that. We'll probably we had an update at last appropriations meeting last week, probably no significant changes for that. So the appropriations committee has seen it as it's developed, but the real purpose Monday is going to be for the public
Great.
to see it. To that extent, then I expect that there'll be some conversations back and forth, questions being asked and staff or committees then being answered.
And obviously, it's broadcast too. So,
Is this broadcast too as well, no?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we're still live, right?
Yep.
I remind you all, we're still live. Any other business?
I would like to say thank you very much to Jason. You've been wonderful to work with. This has been an awful lot this season for you, and taking so many brand-new people and shepherding us through this process. Thank you.
thank you. And I want to thank everybody else for their support and, patience and their diligence of serving on this committee.
It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd recommend that, I'm familiar with CPC funds from my previous roles, but I don't know if we have 3 other members. I don't know if they know where the funding comes from, all the way it's divided, how it's worked. If we could have a synopsis of that given to the committee so we could distribute it to all the membership.
Do you want that before we conclude all of this, before town meeting?
No,
or
no,
in that
it's just something.
roughly that May meeting?
That May meeting, so it's, because we've taken all our actions already, but to make sure everybody clearly understands, where the funding comes from.
Good, good.
And that type of
And
stuff.
again, we'll put something out, what do you want to add to the agenda? So we have at least several things for now.
I brought it up now because I'll forget
I
later on.
wrote it down.
Me too. I'm going to bring up, is there a thing called the debt policy anymore?
Yeah. There is, yeah.
Oh, I would love
We
a copy of
discussed
that
it.
to everybody.
Yeah, we
right.
did discuss it at the meeting.
All
So
right.
Can I just add
Please.
about the CPC? I do a financial update annually with the CPC, and if you look back, I think it's October 5th was the date that meeting was held. That packet should have the financial information from the close of '23 anyway, and the numbers that they use to guide them for
I'm just
this
looking for
year.
basic information for the other membership,
But it would be helpful to look at that in terms of answering
Yeah.
those questions about the
Okay.
CPA.
Good. Anything
So
else?
there is no chance that, there's a chance that we won't meet again until town meeting. So it might be helpful to kind of let them know
We
what happens.
definitely will have a meeting at town meeting before it actually starts at Algonquin. We definitely will have a meeting, and we'll have minutes on that. We may have, we do have the minutes of last week to approve and the minutes of this. So we will have some actions for sure. Right now, we don't have a next meeting date.
The selectmen's
As a-
meeting, right? We're going to
So the
schedule?
next horizon is the select board meeting on the 25th.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no other meetings scheduled beyond that as of this moment. All right? And again, we'll get the revised article stuff back to you ASAP.
So if we don't have a scheduled meeting where we get together, I would love expectations set for how it works at town meeting for everybody, because they've never been there before as a member.
Yes, yes, good point. Well, we get a seat on the dais in the front, facing the audience. The Appropriations Committee is next to us, the Select Board is next to them. The town administrator, town moderator runs the meeting, outside counsel, and the various departments will come up as we step through the article process sequentially. And now I see we have 64, count them, 64 articles. So this is
Two nights.
definitely going to be a two-night.
Might be 3
It's
nights.
going to be, definitely going to be spilling over into 2 nights. We have to have a quorum of 100 people to start the meeting. We had to scurry for more people for the second night last year. You'll notice some people eventually leave the meeting for varying reasons. So there's a structure in terms of how the meeting is conducted. We have new electronic devices for recording voting this year as opposed to index cards. And we'll see how that works. What else? Town meeting, Tim?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The moderator will call for the recommendations on these capital articles from both financial planning and appropriations.
And they
we will-
generally go through the chair, right?
Correct. And we will report back, based on what we voted on here, how we voted on the articles, whether it's unanimous or 2/3 or whatever.
And every once in a while, somebody might step up to the mic and ask why we voted a certain way.
Possible. It's possible. So,
Mics are hot.
yes, they are. Any other business? Do we hear a motion to adjourn at 8:45 PM? All those in favor?
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?